Like, all right.
Because see, it's physical evidence that I went somewhere and did something. Because my wife like, you would bullshit. Look, it is. Steve, send me the link. Send me the link, Steve.
It's official. I was there.
But you can't say it. And we were there for about.
If it doesn't fit, you must have quit.
Exactly. Goddamn right. You're goddamn right. All right, so I'm gonna play this stupid song, and then we can jump into it. All right. I gotta make sure.
Do it.
All right.
The fuck is this?
That's shut the fuck up.
Side piece?
Goddamn right. It's called
Oh,
side
sorry,
piece.
Sean can't hear it. It's like 90s R&B.
Not even.
What? Side piece?
I could kind of hear it.
That's full blown.
Oh yeah, now I'm feeling it.
So welcome to the show. Yeah, after we got a side piece and kicked off YouTube because it was over X amount of seconds.
Hey man,
Was it 9 seconds?
It was definitely over 9 seconds.
Yeah, we got me and Mr. Jenkins, and then we actually have a special guest today, Sean McGuire. He should be here in person, but he never is, and he should be here via Skype, but he's never here for that too. But we got him on the cell phone, so
hey, something's better than
it
nothing.
might sound a little funky. We'll see what happens. How you doing, Sean?
Listen, I made it here, and I just want everybody to know I'm not even getting paid for this bullshit. So.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I never do either.
Yeah,
neither do I.
And matter of fact,
And it's all my
Steve,
stuff.
I was gonna say Steve puts out all the money.
I'm actually in debt for this. Not in debt, but I'm in the hole. So,
Damn, unreal. You're lucky.
Listen, it's better than your boy the Giants face planting on the other day. Okay, wide open, running down the field, nobody around him, and he bit it.
Wait, hold up. When you got Tyreek Hill kind of speed coming out of Daniel Jones like that, it's hard not to trip over your own feet. That guy was flying.
And he tripped over his own feet.
Yeah, his
like
brain was ahead of his feet. That's how slow he was.
It was a for sure touchdown. Like even the guys who were chasing him were like,
he's gone, and all of a sudden he's like, boop, boop, boop.
And they just came by and like touched him.
Tag, you're it. It was like TV tag, man. He fell down and like Donald Duck.
Do you watch a guy named Bob McHenry or Bob something like that? And he the shitbag titty fucking
yes. I love that guy.
And he was like, "Oh,
I sent
white
him,
people back."
I sent Sean that.
I saw it, but I just want to say, I mean, Danny Dimes was moving. All right, it's hard to go that fast and not trip. And that guy was going. You look it up. That was like Tyreek Hill type of speed right there.
I'm gonna have to say I gotta respectfully disagree because I've seen so many people run that fast and not trip and fall with nobody in front of them.
How about in other news? How about yesterday? DK Metcalf.
Man, listen, that was goddamn Jason level Michael Myers chase down.
Face planted.
That was the craziest.
Casper the Friendly
I've never seen anybody go that fast.
Oh, that was great.
I think he said racist divided because of it.
Oh,
but no, did you see he was talking about the Metcalf one where the guy he threw the interception at like what the 1 yard line or some shit, and it was a receiver who was running in the middle, and the fucking corner I don't know if it's corner or safety because I didn't know the team. I mean I don't know the guy on the team,
right?
But he took off down the sideline. And let me tell you, this goddamn T-1000 robot, DK Metcalf. First of all, if you see him in real life, looks like a fucking superhero. I mean,
he does.
He is huge,
just jacked.
He has to be at what 230, maybe 240.
His veins got veins.
Oh, listen,
he's like the perfect specimen of a human being. It's like,
and he chased this guy down. Mind you, the guy already had like a 10-yard head start on him. And he chased him down. I mean, you remember literally T-1000, all he needed was like goddamn blades for hands while chasing the car. I mean, and it was so funny because the cornerback looked back at the last second just to see this big motherfucker. And he was like, shit, I'm not making this. And he tackled him. He ran about 90 yards to tackle this guy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they said he reached like a 22 point something miles per hour top speed.
God,
that's unreal.
Hold on.
Just imagine putting your treadmill on 22 miles an hour. That's how fast that dude was running. Like that's sick.
That is sick.
I'm about to show Steve right now.
You can keep it plugged in.
Oh, you want to keep it plugged in?
Well, skip the commercial.
Well, hold on. I gotta wait because it's a 10 second commercial. But,
it's one of those they force you.
Yeah. I mean, unless I want to pay for it, but I'm not paying for fucking YouTube.
No.
No, we're not getting paid to do this whole thing. We can't afford to pay for anything else.
You goddamn right.
Yeah, you got.
Track him down. Can he chase him down?
All right, hold on. It's got to show you. It showed the end first. All right, so watch this goddamn.
Boom. Oh, he's not even that big.
No, that's the guy who got the interception.
Oh, wow. Yes, sir. He's like.
But you have to see it from the side.
Here
view.
it comes, side view.
See, that's him. Like, oh shit, he doesn't have it. Now watch this
Oh man, he's like go gadget rocket booster.
Like, right, last second. Oh shit.
Oh man.
It looked like everybody else was standing still while he was running.
Look at him running, thinking, "No, don't touch me." That was great.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That was great. I did not see that.
Yeah, he was moving.
Metcalf is a beast.
I didn't even know who the fuck he was, to be honest with you.
I've only been watching the Raiders games, so it was a very big disappointment.
This is him on the right.
Brady. Yeah, I've seen that picture before. Actually,
that's a receiver?
I remember him from fantasy last year.
Yeah, he's having a great year too. They weren't sure if he'd turn out in the pros, but he's
This is what I saw first. I was like, who let this goddamn giant, like, we need to check him for all the steroids.
Yeah,
right?
he just eats babies. he's eating babies, and that's how he gets the natural HGH.
Is that what
Yeah, something.
Baby horses at that.
Exactly. So, Sean, obviously the show that you don't know about because you don't watch any of them, so it's about racism.
It's okay.
Kind of.
Most people
we
don't.
talk about other stuff too, but
We're talking about fighting before you got on there.
yeah,
Not fighting each other, but just fighting in general.
yeah, in general,
all right.
cage fighting. But big thing is just trying to reach out and get other people, and I know you always have some pretty good points.
Now, this is what Steve tells me is that we'll talk about something and he'll be totally like kind of sold on what we talked about, and then he'll be like, I talked to my friend and man, he came up with some great points, man.
Yeah,
and I really want to talk about this, blah blah. I'm like, all right, what the fuck does this guy say? Because I swore we talked about pretty much all of it.
Well, all right. Well, you gotta fill me in on exactly what we're talking.
No,
about.
I'm just saying in general, this is what he says about you.
Yeah, it's just like a general, like you'll make a point. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's a good one. Like the analogy is key because like you try to think of a way to put it into context. You're like, I can't really make the connection, and you'll be like, what? And I'm like, ooh, yeah, that was good. Okay, I'm gonna have to write that one down. And then I try to regurgitate it and doesn't go so well, but.
I like some good conversation, so let's see what we can drum up here today.
You know, you're driving. Look, you stay safe, brother. We're going to talk. Hopefully, we talk about something. Steve had presented. You said the election.
Well, we start off with the election. I mean, that kind of what is the
First of all, who are you voting for? I'm going to be very aggressive in my words here, but I want you to understand.
He's not going to be aggressive at all.
I just cuss a lot sometimes.
No,
Steve pretends like
fine.
he doesn't. Because he's worried about what people say. Nobody I know really watches this, or at least
like 6 people.
Like the people who do, they don't care.
We're gonna post on YouTube eventually, or not. All the smoke.
ones,
We're gonna
exactly.
put on all the smoke.
There's a lot of people out there that want to hear what I have to say, so this one may get a lot of listens.
You know what? Hey, look, I hope so.
We'll take it.
Well,
We'll take it.
I'm all for controversy. I told him there's only a couple people on here that I was like, we could have them on there, but it would just turn into a shit show.
And I just want to give a shout out to Ariana Grande if you're listening. Give me a shout.
Ariana, if you are, I'll give you his number.
I was like,
you have no idea what he looks
this.
like. You can find him on Facebook, probably. He's the guy like holding the baby pouch in front in the left hand, and in the right hand he's drinking a beer out of a Solo cup. You're like, yep, that's him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Well, you don't. If you ever go to a brewery, white person thing to do. You always see like people. It's like the new playground for the kids. They go there with their kids, and you always see like a dad with the baby pouch thing in front. And he's like holding the baby, just like talking, while the baby's just like hanging there, dangling, like sleeping. He's like, "Yeah, I'm here to party." That's Sean. That's who you're talking to right now.
Oh, that's
tell you what, not no more. He can't go out anywhere. He ain't going out to no brewery standing up.
Nah.
Not since March. That shit don't happen.
True.
Now, how do you know what? I don't know this gentleman, so I wonder how he feels about all that's going on.
That's a good segue. That's a good segue.
You see how I did that, baby?
So what do you think, man? I mean, you're seeing all these spikes now suddenly in COVID cases, quote unquote spikes.
Oh, first of all, yeah, they're spiking like a
Yeah.
motherfucker.
You know
These
what?
last 2 weeks
Have you
been
watched,
spiked
Sean? Have you
heavy.
watched any of the debates?
I didn't see the last one. I saw the first and the vice presidential.
Oh, okay.
So listen, the first,
I heard the first
excuse
one
me, I
was
should
shit
say the
show.
last one was surprisingly good. And
That's what I heard.
Joe Biden lied about 5 times.
How many times did Trump lied?
Yeah, come on.
Like
here.
3 times.
He said-
gotta-
Yeah.
We know there's lying going on both
Oh,
sides.
right.
These guys are,
It was like Trumpisms where you can tell he's talking out his ass. You're like, come on. He's like, I'm just trying to say, okay, because, and then you're like, Trump,
the
I can
hands
just,
are opening and closing.
right.
It doesn't
When
open and-
when the hands start opening and closing, it's a whole bunch of
I
just
thought you were going to say when
whatever.
his mouth starts opening and closing.
No. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. But it's just hilarious because the way they blame all of the COVID deaths on Trump, it's like,
That
well,
is-
if this guy wasn't president,
Yeah.
there'd be
That is
220,000 people still alive. And I'm like, so Joe, nobody would have died on your watch? None. Like, oh, how can you verify that? Well, I'm just a
Oh, yeah.
Joe Biden.
Come on now. Listen, I'm a mudsling
I mean,
with the best of them.
they're taking an angle on there because they're thinking that they're going to get some votes out of it. But if you're sitting there believing that the president was the cause of those deaths, that's just absurd.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, they are getting
people
votes.
really-
they are getting
yeah.
votes because of the response to COVID. That
they are
Trump.
getting votes. They're getting votes for that, just like Donald Trump's getting votes for bringing back Big Ten football.
I mean, yes,
so
that's true. That's
you're
a
gonna
good
get- you're
point.
gonna
See, you
get-
made a good point.
is that
You're like-
I'm gonna go to the
You're
bathroom.
gonna
I'll be
get-
right back. I'm gonna let you to it. I'll be
all right?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, and what I mean by that is like there are people out there who are just voting on,
Well, most people vote on 1 or 2 topics anyway.
right, mood points, and like you got to take everything into account. Like joke around about the funny things with like a Republican and Democrat. Like they have their pillars that they stand on, right? Like let's say if you're pro-life or pro-choice, but the fact of the matter is whoever gets in office, that's not changing.
No,
I mean,
Roe v.
people
Wade
are
is
gonna
not
have
changing. Matter of fact, I think Steve or I saw somebody. Oh, actually, no. Steve sent me a like a TikTok or something, and it was like this guy. He's like a conservative talking guy or whatever, talking head for TikTok. But he was like,
Right.
"Oh man." He was making a joke like, "Oh man, when the conservatives get in there, they're gonna take Roe v. Wade." He was like, "Wait a second, hold on. What do you mean that?" Because it was like I think either 6 or 5 conservatives on the Supreme Court at the time when Roe v. Wade was passed. It was 6, and it was like 2, Democrats or whatever. And he was like, "So wait, so basically the Republicans passed Roe v. Wade," and he was like, "Huh, that's different." And then he went to another one. And it just was funny. I'm just using that for what you said. Cause I'm like, I mean, yeah, that's the same thing with guns, though. It's like it's perfect for gun manufacturers, especially like I remember when Obama said it, and everybody went crazy and bought guns, and it was just funny because it was like, oh, he's gonna take your guns, he's gonna take your guns, and it was like, really? Because we've had Democratic presidents before, and not once. I was like, this is a gun country. I know it's the thought is that all conservatives own all the guns. It's like, but that's not how it works. I was like, I know plenty of like liberal people and conservative people, and only a handful of people do I know who own more than 5 guns.
Yeah, but that's changing though, especially.
But I'm saying, the idea is always that Democrats are just like, we're going to protest, and conservatives are like, well, we got all the guns. What you gonna do?
And they got to stick to one side or the other. You notice that on anything. They take a side and then they run with it. So it's like, all right, well, we're gonna get all the people who are so anti-gun, and we're gonna stick with it, and we're gonna grab all those votes. And then the Republicans are like, well, no, then we got to play the other side. We're gonna take everybody who wants some guns. Where like the vote one way or the other, whoever gets in office, it's not like all of a sudden
guns
Democrats in office,
No.
yeah, and it's like everybody handing your guns. No,
well,
I mean,
it's also funny because it's like when when Obama got in office. The House and the Senate, well, it's the House and the Senate were like Republicans. It's like, hey guys, the president Like, by the way, doesn't kind of really matter. Like, in all honesty, you should be voting every 2 years, and those are the people who matter. But I was like, it's the popularity contest of the guy. Like, okay, yeah, maybe, you know, Trump get in office, then you can get more Republican votes for the House and the Senate and stuff like that. I was like, maybe that's like, but it's popularity. It's like him signing things in. Like I was telling Steve, I was like, whatever bill or whatever they put in place, unless they truly, truly back it and do everything that they need to, and they have all the, you know, the approvals.
Yeah.
Like, it usually takes a couple years for any new law or any new bill to go through. Then it's got to go through its process. Because usually, like I told Steve, I was like, usually towards the end of a president's term, like his first term, is when whatever bill or whatever he pushed
finally goes through. Right.
I was like, then the second term, if they get it, that's where they can, you know, maneuver, and then it's like, all right, let's see how your thing did.
See, and that's what's kind of funny, because first term, you almost have to be a 2-term president to get anything done, because the first term, and the same thing happened with Obama, and you're going to see the same thing happen with Trump. It's because they know you got another term left, they want to get it back. You know, so it's like, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. And it's like, well, you didn't do anything. I'm like, yeah, I didn't do anything because you wouldn't let me, because you just kept like, oh, no.
The shit,
yeah, we're just going to block it. We're going to block it. And then they can be like, look, he was in there for 4 years and didn't do nothing.
Well, see, it's
then,
funny because,
you know, the same thing happened with Obama. The first term, nothing happened. The second term was like, whoa, a lot of change happening.
Well, that's because they finally...
They knew it was going to be done.
Well, that too, but...
And if it goes bad, they'd be like, look what he did.
And that's exactly what happened, because a lot of Republicans came out like, yeah, they told us to block anything he did. They're like, it didn't matter. And I was like, but I know for the fact the same thing is happening on the Democratic side, where it's like they're like, Trump didn't put this through, and he didn't do this, and he didn't do that. I'm like, oh, for real? Man, that sucks. And then you find out, well, yeah, you know, the Democrats kind of
voted all against
it.
it.
They voted all against it. They, like, at the time they had the majority, and they wouldn't let the shit through. So it's like, oh, so you both fucking suck.
Yeah.
Oh, you both don't give a shit about the country.
You're just playing a game.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. It's like, because you get the best health care. You get, you know, what's it? I don't know if, like, was it congressmen and all that, if they get do they get it for life? That's paid? Like, they're paid?
As far as health care?
I don't know either.
No, I'm saying, like, you know how the president gets their salary for life and, you know, whatever. It's like, is it the same thing with it? Well,
I didn't know the president did get it for life.
Yeah, that's what it was. I know he gets the detail and everything.
The detail, but I didn't know about the pay.
Yeah, if
he does, I didn't know it. I'll put it that way.
But it usually doesn't matter, because almost, I say at least in the last 20, 30 years, almost every president who's went in as like whatever they were before came out millionaires. Like, Bush was already a million. Like, I think his family was millionaire, and then he came out multimillionaire. Same thing with Condoleezza Rice, Colin Powell, I tell you, the evil one, Dick Cheney. It's still a scary man. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. You talk about a scary man. That's a scary man. It took 2 hearts, and he took 2 baby hearts, okay? To his body, I told Steve, I was like, his body was like, this is too much evil. I can't do it. And then he was like, I need another heart.
Sean, what do you see? What do you see out your way, like on the side of, like, you see a lot of lawn signs? Like, is there Biden signs? Is there Trump signs? How does Pittsburgh lean?
City, man, it's the same most everywhere in this country. You go when you're in the city, or you're close to the city, the closer you get, you're going Democrat. As soon as you get,
over the hill,
as soon as you get over the hill, you go 10 miles outside of any city, you're going Republican. That's like, you look at New York, right?
That's very true.
I mean, if you're in New York and you're in the city, you know, you're going to get Democrats, right? Everybody there is going to be a Democrat. But you go upstate New York, I'm going to be willing to bet that you're going to see a lot more Trump.
Coming to Steve's house all the time, I get to see the different array of Trump merchandise.
So where are you closer to, Mike? Where are you closer to?
I live in Maryland. So
Owings Mills.
I'm in the county. I'm like in the county. But
he lived right down the street from the store.
Yeah. I literally live like 5 minutes down the street. But I moved since then, but I'm still in the area. But it's funny because I see it's so hilarious to see all of Biden switch to Trump. Like, you know,
a light switch.
It's like, yeah, because it's like,
we getting in the sticks.
Because it's like, because, you know, once you go like Westminster, Maryland, you start seeing the Trump. And then, but it literally is like a cutoff. It's like Biden, Trump. You know, it's like, oh, okay, I know where I'm at now. It's like, oh, I get it. But I will tell you, Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania is more creative because I've seen different styles. Like everyone else just has that little cheap lawn sign or maybe a Trump
Oh,
flag.
no, we'll paint a building.
Oh, listen, sir.
Oh,
I was like, I didn't even know they made a flag that big for Trump. Like, I don't even think Trump has that flag.
No.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, then I see all these different versions of Trump and like the Trump signs, and then some will say like, dumper and all this, clever little things. And I was like, you know what? I'm not for your guy, but that's pretty fucking funny. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's a funny thing right there. But see, I also dislike Biden and Kamala too. So it's like I tell Steve, I was like, I became an independent a couple years ago, because it was like once Trump won, and it wasn't that he won, it was the people who I know voted for him and what they were saying. Like that was my thing, because it was like all of a sudden Trump became
great again.
Well, not even that, but he became this super Christian, super moral having guy. And I'm like, we're talking about Donald Trump, right?
Not really. He didn't really. I mean,
no, but I'm saying these people were saying this about him.
Right.
And I'm like, hold on. The same guy I'm looking at who's mocking the disabled guy and calling people's wives ugly, like his competitor, wives and children ugly. Now, be fair, they did talk about
he started it.
Well, Trump, it's basically like somebody like, you're ugly, or your mom's ugly. He was like, your dead son's ugly. Like, God damn, Trump. God damn. It's like he won the bullying competition, basically.
He's a good bully.
He's a very good bully. I'll give him that. And it was literally, but I saw all these people who were talking shit like, oh, morals and values. And I'm like, so the guy who cheated on every one of his wives with his new wife or new thing, and then he cheated on the new one that he bought not too long ago. I was like, he cheated on her. I was like, and she was probably the best. Yeah, it was like she was probably the best looking one.
That's a null and void point right there, because the best, if you go to most Democrats, you talk about the best Democratic president in recent history, people are going to talk about that guy Bill Clinton.
Listen, we talk about
hilarious.
Clinton. Listen, I tell Steve, you better stop talking about the Clintons before you get suicided. All right. I know about the Clintons. Hey, don't worry.
Dirty.
I learned about the Clintons.
Mark that off the record. Strike that from the record.
That's right. Don't you disrespect them.
Edit that out.
Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Clinton. All's good here with Michael. I don't know about Steve and Sean.
Mr. and Mrs. Clinton, Biden Harris, 2020.
Exactly. Like, look, if Steve disappears next week, then I hear about you disappearing too. I'm like, Sean, I'm sorry, I want to say his last name. I was his last name. But I was like, Sean McGuire found dead, suicided.
Yeah,
like shot himself 14 times in the head.
Hey, man.
Like, God damn.
So you see a lot of towards the city. You see a lot of Biden. You get out the ways. You see Trump, as is everywhere, I guess.
And that's what I'm saying. If you look throughout the, throughout the country, that's just the way it is. When you get closer to the city, you get Democrat.
So what do you think? What's your prediction for the outcome of the election? You think Trump's getting it? You think Biden's going to get it?
You want my opinion on what I think is going to happen?
Let's hear it.
All right, I think there's going to be a lot of people crying when Trump gets reelected.
You think he's going to get reelected? You think he's going to get reelected?
Because here's what the fact is, right? We got the quote unquote mainstream media who, let's be honest, most of it is
it's liberal. It's all liberal. It's mostly
liberal. And we're talking about how Biden is, in the polls. I don't even know where they come up with those numbers, because there's a lot of Trump people who aren't talking.
It's very true.
Which is smart. You should always do that.
We talk about, again, what I just said about, like, you got the cities who are blue, and then these people who are out in the sticks and they're red, and they're not getting all those numbers involved in these polls. And I know that the Biden ticket is well aware of that. Like I watched the 60 Minutes yesterday, and they talking to them.
I wanted to, but I didn't.
Well, I saw Trump say it.
Knows.
Trump talked about it. I was gonna say, so I didn't even have to watch it.
He did. You're right. And the Trump, Trump was being Trump again. And you watch it, and you're like, man, this guy's a little bit loony. Like, we could all admit that, but it doesn't change the fact that the people that are behind him are behind him. And
man, he's got a cult. He has got a for sure cult going, because that's my thing, is like they believe. The funniest shit I saw, and I told Steve this a while back, the funniest thing I saw was when he got elected and he did like either his first or second rally after that, and he started walking back everything that he was saying like, "Hey, remember when we talked about Dre the Swamp? Man, we were crazy, right?"
No, Hillary.
No,
Hillary.
Oh, he was like, "Remember we talked about lock her up?" He's like, but he put it on there.
We're here.
He was like, "Man, you guys were crazy." He said, "You guys were crazy." He's like, come on, we're past that though, right?"
Right.
And it's like you can hear people like, "Yeah,
hold up.
Wait, what?"
Hold up.
And it's like you could just hear the crowd kind of wither, and then he realized that he was losing them, and he's like, "But we're in here," and he hyped
Make
him up
America great
again.
again.
But it was funny because he walked back. He was like, he walked back like 3 things that it was like part of his campaign.
Yeah, I remember.
And they were just like, "Wait, we put this guy in office, right?"
What?
I mean, and then you got to look at like from like my thought process too is like with the whole Corona thing. I don't see how, if you own a business, I don't see how you vote.
How do you vote blue? Yeah.
So he's gaining everybody who wants to get back to work because Biden is staying strong with.
Oh yeah.
If I gotta shut the country down, I'm gonna shut the country down. So if you own a business, any small business owner or anything like that, you think that he's getting all them.
You know what's funny, dude, is like you said is like the Trump supporters and you know they're kind of like staying silent or just not.
No,
the type
not
of people.
Of
course, not all of them, but
no, not all of them.
Silent majority is why we call it that, buddy. Because they quiet. He doesn't like silent majority. It makes him mad.
No, because I don't believe.
But the point I was trying to say though is, okay, if you look at the demographic of who's filling out these surveys, right? Because they're 90% of them are online, right? Where they get this polling. That's how they get the polling.
I never got asked to do a survey.
I know.
Yeah,
that's the point.
I was going to ask that question too. Again, you see this. Oh, Biden's 12 points ahead in the polls. I'm like, whose polls? Who's taking this?
Exactly. Like the polling.
CNN
the polling
polls.
comes up on the polling comes up like on YouTube. Anytime I get on YouTube, it's like, hey, survey, blah blah, and his first question is, who you voting for? No, I skip it. I'm just like, nope,
I skip it.
Free ad. I'm not letting you know what I'm doing, kind of thing. Like, you don't need that. And it's just hilarious how the people. It's kind of like like almost like an Angie's List thing. I mean, you used to work in that field, right? The people who complain are the loudest, or the complainers are the loudest. So, like, if you get 3 stars on an Angie List, it's like, well, yeah. It's because 2 people complained out of 10,000, and it's just because the disgruntled ones are the only ones that have the time to say something. They're the ones that complain. They're the ones who also fill out the
polls. They might have just been fucking, was it Karens or something like that?
Right, Karens and dicks.
He said he was going to do this. And I mean, yeah, it was raining, and clearly he couldn't do that. But they said they were going to do this.
Right.
Who's that? You all right?
Hold up.
Oh, it's just something.
What I missed there? Sorry about the delay, folks.
No.
You're good. But like the point I guess I'm getting at is the people who actually fill out the polling are always people on the internet or liberal. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think conservatives generally fill out the polls. I mean, they're like, I'll worry about when I go vote in person. I'm gonna say it again, in person, because I contribute. You know what I mean? And then everything else from there, we'll see how the cards unfold. But everybody acts like,
I think too.
We saw the same thing, by the way, in 2016 with Hillary. Way ahead. Nobody thought Trump had a chance.
First of all,
right.
And you're coming off the booming economy. The only thing that they have, the only quote unquote ace in the hole, is COVID, and that's why the last debate. If you watch the last debate, Trump was very solid, and in my opinion, beat up Biden. And I know you go on CNN and
you said that both times.
Yeah, but the thing is, here's the thing: if you watch liberal media, and the only thing they have to say is based on Trump's character and call him a bully, like he was so mean, he should have said this. Oh, he was like smiling in between. He should have said that. It's like, sorry, I sound black when I'm saying that. It could be a white person. I can't make a white. I can't make a white lady voice.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. How do I?
Racist son of a bitch.
Point being is, you got me there. The point being is, like, if they're talking about emotion post debate and not talking facts, you lost. Like, well, there was a fly on his head. Like, okay, if you're talking about a fly and 0 point of what Kamala said, you lost. I'm sorry, you lost.
That's like talking to your friend who got beat up in a one-on-one fight. And
Well, it was
hey,
raining.
man, hey, it was close. Hey, you know, you did slip. You did slip.
I didn't have my stretchy jeans on that day.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, you know what? And he did have I was like, you did have those flip flops on that you changed to your shoes before the fight, but you did have them on at one point in time in the day.
But you missed the socks. You didn't have no socks.
And he hit you in the back of the head. He hit you in the back of the head.
Uh-huh.
But I'm leaving out the part where he turns you with he turns you around with that punch and
suplex
accidentally hit you in the back of the head because the punch was so goddamn strong. But besides that,
because you were running away.
You had it. Hey man, it was. You know what you tell them when you know they lost? Hey man, it was close.
My point is,
I mean, you look at those debates. I mean, I don't think there's much to be gained in any of them, especially what we freaking saw the first time around. Nobody gained anything there.
Plus, everybody kind of knows who they're voting for.
Well,
anyway.
see,
right,
in the first,
you hope that you can gain some stuff that somebody doesn't.
Not this go around.
No, not this go around, not at all.
No.
But you know, it goes back to what we said earlier too, of like, you know, some of these people try and get these policies out, like, and you hope that somebody's looking at one specific thing.
Right.
And if they're looking at one specific thing, you're like, all right, then I want that guy because of that, because he's not going to take my gun away. You know, like something stupid. But you know, people go off of, you know, these little things, and they know that every little thing that they say, you know, is gonna gain or lose a vote.
Well, that's like Republicans not getting away from abortion. You know, first off, Roe v. Wade was passed with a Republican.
I was just talking to him about
a whole Republican House.
Yeah.
You had the Supreme Court. Everybody's like, well, the first thing they're going to do when she comes in is she's going to overturn Roe v. Wade. Bro, Republicans passed Roe v. Wade. You just said 6-2.
Yeah.
6 Republicans, 2 Democrats. They're like, yeah, we'll take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's to your point. It's a shock factor. Everybody knows it's not going to change.
It's just like
but we will not let it
die.
die because just like the guns thing, there's those thumpers that just want to see it turned over. It's never, ever going to happen. But they're like, you don't like it. I'm not voting for that guy because he didn't like my thing.
Listen,
my one thing.
My mom is super liberal, hates Trump, all that. Still wants a gun.
Right.
It's like, you know, like
she should.
I know people.
Yeah.
I know people who are afraid of guns. It was like, and then I know people like who are liberal, whatever. And then like my wife, she's just not one of. I do, and I'm not either side, but I would say I probably tend to lean more liberal on my thinking anyway, because I came up thinking that, and then it was like not too long ago, I was like, oh, this is all bullshit. Oh, okay, I get it now.
Well, like to that point, it's just like you die on that hill, and it's like why?
Why?
But like, it's like, dude, like, and to your point of backpedaling, right? Mm-hmm. When Biden was going to get like nominated, you know, he pulls out like New Green Deal. We're taking your AR-15s, and now we're getting closer. He has backpedaled a lot. He's like, we can keep your gun, you know what I mean? We'll keep fossil fuels. We'll keep fossil fuels. That's all cool. It's all cool, baby. We keep the fossil fuels. You were never going to take them. You just need those crazies. And you had to, like, well, he said it, but he said like 6 months ago. Yeah, you know what I mean? They know what's up.
Yeah, I mean, it's all this stuff too. You know, they harp on one little thing that's said, and they're like, oh, but he said this, and if it was said in a joking way, and they like, oh my God, he was dead serious when he said this.
Right.
It's like with the whole bleach thing. I was like, come on, people.
Nobody took that. Yeah.
Get off
First of all, that was funny.
Thing.
That was funny.
That was funny. But I think I took it as he was joking. Like he knew it was a kind of.
Everybody knew he was.
Now I will tell you this, and this goes to both sides, is when their person makes some type of joke or says something, they understand it. But when the other person does the same thing, that's like, because
100%.
Trust me, I've seen.
Very good point.
Because right now Trump's in office, so it's not to be me, but it's like, that's why I've seen with people who support Trump. It's like, well, no, he meant this, blah blah. I was like, but you got mad with Obama when he said this, and they're like, well, because he definitely meant that. I was like, but he laughed while saying it.
Well, it's like the kids in cages.
Oh yeah.
You know, and if you watch the last debate, he beat Joe up with that. He's like, well, you put the kids in cages. He's like, hey Joe. Who built him? Who built him? And he's like, well, you put him in him. He's like, hey, Joe, who built him? And it was like, you couldn't say anything. But what was hilarious, you go back to Obama said multiple times, listen, we got to tighten this up. We got to build a wall. And everybody's like, yeah, okay, we're building a wall. And Republicans are like, oh, okay. this guy, we thought it was left. No, he's actually, he makes sense. And
You
now
know
all of
what
a
I
sudden
tell
Trump
you?
gets in stage. He's like, we're going to build a wall. And everybody's like, no.
Well, because Trump, I told you, Obama versus Trump, like, put it this way. If you had to go listen to a debate about anything and Obama and Trump is there, you're going to want to hear Obama because it's smooth. It comes
He can
out better.
articulate.
It's like Trump is
yeah.
just going to repeat the same words again. He's
Fantastic
gonna,
wall.
yeah,
It's going to be a
he's going to
fantastic
come
wall.
off as a rich, condescending asshole who you don't really believe is for you. Obama is going to come off as a guy like, hey, man, don't even worry about
Well,
that.
to
I
that
got
point-
it, baby.
He was a well-spoken president. He knew how
Oh,
to
he's
articulate
charismatic.
things.
That's the thing,
Very.
too.
And people got behind it because he could speak well. Whereas, I mean, you know, I as a Republican, I don't know if there's. I mean, I guess some people do, but it's hard. Like when you listen to Trump, sometimes you're like, man, where's this guy going? Like,
That's because we don't listen to him.
like you're like, you know, it's hard. You wish he could stay a little bit together. It's like it's almost that he's got something on the teleprompter, but then
He does not pay attention to that shit.
Yeah, it's like he gets behind the teleprompter and then he just he rambles a little bit.
So he goes in with a game plan,
Mhm.
right? And when
And
the
it gets
game
off
plan, it's like a fight. The game plan is going well, and he's winning.
And then he gets,
And then he
punched.
gets jabbed. He's not even hurt, just 2 jabs. But the fact is, he's so mad he got jabbed, like he was gonna go into a fight and not get hit at all,
yep.
at all.
In his
And then
mind.
he's just like, "Oh, I got jabbed twice. Oh, haymakers!
for all
I'm just
day.
throwing haymakers." And you're watching it, you're like, "This guy's supposed to be a professional fighter, and he's throwing these over the top." Awful looking bombs, and it like every once in a while one lands, and you're like, "Oh!"
Yeah.
But there's for every ooh, there's like 10 that are just like, whoo, whoo.
Like, what the
You
fuck
remember
is
when
he
like
doing?
Rocky was that Rocky 3 or Rocky 2
Every
when he
Rocky
fights
movie
no
ever?
Rocky 3 when he fights Clubber Lang and Clubber Lang's throwing the fuck like the hooks, he's like, whoo, 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 whoo. You're like, nobody punches like that.
No. Nobody
That's
punched
what
the way
Trump-
Rocky did.
Right. And it hits it literally makes a splash sound.
We could do without a lot of the
A lot of talking.
like a lot
And
of the
tweeting.
Yeah.
God, listen.
Listen, I can get behind the tweeting if, like, for a president to tweet, I can get behind it if he gets too absurd with it. But, like, let's say, if it is Biden getting in, I'm okay with a tweeting, like, to hear, like, a direct conversation from a president if it's not absurd.
And that's
But,
why he
like,
does it.
Yeah, he gets a little too absurd
I'm adjusting
with
the
it.
paper.
From
Okay.
the beginning, I've told anybody and everybody, I said, look, you don't have to like the other person, whatever. I was like, but Trump tweets like a 15-year-old girl who just got
Totally.
a phone.
Yeah.
And not a regular 15-year-old girl, the popular 15-year-old girl that most people hate. And she is just talking shit about everybody. And his sentences look like a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna say 13 because usually 15 you're English too, and you're fresh, so you know.
And he's and like you're like, wait a second, this is 2:30 in the morning.
Exactly. You're like, wait a second, this motherfucker was up at like 2 o'clock on a Sunday. Like, didn't he have to be at work at 7?
Yeah, he's all cracked out stuff he said.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is like the exact same thing happens. Like you look at the stuff Nancy Pelosi or what's her name AOC puts out. You're like, what? Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about that.
I hate to tell you this. I kind of like AOC.
I hate AOC.
I know a lot.
She's
of
an
people do.
idiot.
She's not.
Nah, she's an idiot.
She's a very smart person.
Listen to what she says. She has.
But she
this
has
is
to
no.
be.
Hold on.
She has to be
I'm
on.
gonna backpedal you here.
She has to
I'm gonna
be
backpedal
on.
you
She,
here.
no, listen. She has to be just like everybody says with people who support Trump and all that. She has to be like that.
You know, she turned down Amazon coming to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And would have created a boatload of jobs, and they're like, we don't want that.
Well, that's what I hear. But I also then you hear on the other side that it would have hurt everybody. They don't pay taxes. This, that, and third.
They don't pay income tax.
But no, I'm just telling you what is being hurt. So put it this way, on her side.
Here's hold on. I'm just gonna stop you because this is just I don't want to hear her side.
Wait,
because
hold on.
All right, let's hear it.
Question here, and then I'm gonna backpedal this a little bit here.
Go ahead.
Bring us back to the election. Do either of your guys, dead serious question here. Either your guys' lives change if Biden or Trump is in office.
Nothing
come
changed for me.
November.
Well, I was telling somebody the other day.
Me
I was
personally,
like, yeah.
Personally, on a personal
Like in
level,
personal life, do you see whatever they've done really benefiting you?
And I'm thinking about this because of like you started talking about AOC and you both said, all right, well, it depends on who you're listening to or what one says is going to be good, one says it's going to be bad, right? And at the end of the day, we fight about all this crap. We fight about, oh well, everybody says, well, if you vote for Trump, you're going to do this, and if you vote for Biden, you're going to do that.
I've made 400,000, so I don't know.
Right. It's like we sit here, and I think it's like at the end of the day,
my life hasn't changed, but from Bush to now, anything that I've wanted to do, or besides the COVID, obviously besides Corona and the world shutting down, but besides 2020, anything that I wanted to do or felt I should do, and this when we talk about black and white, I tell Steve this all the time. It's like, I can't say I know of a white person who's held me down. There might have been some people who saw me or I interviewed with, and they were like, yeah. They might have, but they didn't say it. They didn't show it to me, so I don't know. So anything that I've done, I know my mistakes. I know what I've done. I know what I have to do better to move forward. I was like, but I can tell you no president has ever affected me.
I got you.
Way.
You know what it was?
What's that?
Obama.
Oh, that's your insurance.
You know why? Healthcare.
Yeah.
Okay. So like, I don't know if you remember, Sean, like when we were up in, State College at that time, we were both broke as a joke, sitting there working. What?
So you're talking about 08, like, Obama came in 2008.
Well, this is before I knew him, but yeah, at that time it was like everybody was so pro Obama, and for good reason. Everything he said sounded fantastic, right? Mm-hmm. And it came down to term 2 when Obamacare got passed, and it was like, okay, we're all on board for this, right? Mm-hmm. And what happened was when it actually got passed,
your dad
we're sitting there, we're sitting here talking like, making $32,000 a year as a server, thinking we're going to get free healthcare tomorrow, right? And they're like, oh no.
That's a lot.
You make too much money. It's like, I make too much money? And it's like, you know how much rent was in a college town. It was not cheap. Okay. You know what I mean? Like living up there was not cheap. So that 32 grand after taxes, keep in mind, did not go that far. So, and you're sitting here, somebody's telling you, well, everybody's going to get healthcare. And you're like, all right, I'm down. You got my vote. Then all of a sudden, no, you make too much money. I'm like, bro, what? You said this was universal health care. I make $32,000.
Correction.
And
that's
I
before taxes.
I don't get health care. Who gets it? You know what I mean? And they're like, well, we gave 20 million people health care. It's like, cool. What do they do? Nothing. You're like, all right, that's cool. So all these people get the health care, and everybody else, like, I knew people who completely lost their health care. It wasn't even provided anymore because their deductible went from like, $1,100 to like $4,000 a year. They're paying like $800 a month for health care.
Now, I will tell you my one, because what you're saying makes sense, but my one thing was,
that was another way Biden lied because negotiations on prescriptions was not actually part of Medicaid. Anyway, keep going.
But go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, probably one of the bigger things that can affect people becomes healthcare. Now, luckily enough for me, I don't have underlying health concerns. Yeah, even when I was in state college, bro, I didn't have to go see the doctor like within the year.
I did.
I think we were covered. If I'm not mistaken, we were covered under our parents until 26.
That didn't happen until term 2.
Yeah,
by that time we were already 25.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know for me, that wasn't really a thing because it was like,
and you had to be enrolled in school.
Was it?
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that part. Yeah, I remember it being 26, but I remember being like, oh, this doesn't benefit me because I think I was 26 at the time.
Yeah, you had to have been because I was like 25.
Yeah, I was like,
24 maybe.
I don't.
Yeah,
I was like, this don't help me. But I was saying, my thing was, if I were to believe Obama, I believe it was something that we needed something. That's like, and I think it was like a
black guy president.
You got that right. I was like, Steve's going somewhere again, but it was like a halfway thing. It was like, look, we got to start somewhere, and my thing was like, hopefully we'll get better. Like how people see with Trump, they're like, look, man, he's doing this, and hopefully we'll get better. And again, everybody does that with their person, whoever they're supporting. They look on the optimistic side of everything that their person does, no matter what. It's like, but I know for a fact that in the past, the goddamn healthcare industry was fucking over people left and right. Like, hands down, killing people, hands down. If you had acne, as a teenager, and then you went and, try to get new health care, they're like, oh no, we turned you down because you had a pre-existing condition. I'm like, what's that? Like acne. Like, what? Like, my pediatrician gave me Clearasil for that, and I was fine. Like, yeah, whatever. Like shit like that. Like, and they used to get bonuses for like, not what was it? Like, not for the claims and shit, not actually pushing them through or not being able to deny them, things of that nature. It's like, so it's kind of like there was a reason for it. It wasn't like we just came up and like, hey, healthcare, what I'm saying? Like, it was a reason for it. Now, the problem is, I remember that penalty for not having healthcare because I didn't have help because I was a contractor from like 2000. I worked in D.C. as a contractor with WMATA, which is Washington Metro Transit Authority. And I was working with them for about 2.5 years. And it's a contracting job, so they don't give you, you don't get the benefits like that. You're supposed to get more money to make up for the benefits that you're not getting. And that's what happened. It's like, but I do remember, like, the year I guess it kicked in for the penalty, and it was like, yeah, if you don't have this, then we're gonna go ahead.
Taxes, right?
Yeah, it's doing my taxes. They're like, and they told me, they're like, yeah, so. They're like, not this year, but next year, if you don't have insurance, you're going to get penalized. I was like, hold on, wait, what? And I remember telling the lady, like, who was doing my taxes, I was like,
where did this come from?
I was like, break this down to me. And she told me, and I was like,
I did not sign up for this.
I was like, Obama, I need to holler at you. But see, here's the other thing. I know some people who were on that Cobra shit because they got laid off for whatever reason. Oh, they got laid off like in, we'll say 2009. Because of the 2008, recession and all that. But they got laid off, and then they were looking for insurance, and then they got on Cobra, which is the worst plan I've ever seen in my life.
Cobra's been around for a minute, though, I think.
The fact that it's still around is amazing.
Yeah.
It's like, because they'll be like, hey, you want your same insurance? Pay us $1,500 a month, even though you're not working right now. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So, but I'm just saying, like I was telling him, I was like, there's a reason for why it was brought up. It's just that execution needed more work. It still needs more work. It's like, because it's not a bad idea for people to be able to.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I would say. But the problem was, like you said, a penalty for not having it. Like, hold on, wait a second.
See, here's my thing is, and I haven't seen, and this is where I haven't actually looked into Biden's healthcare plan too much.
I haven't looked into either one of them,
which is hilarious because like they get so pissed. Go ahead.
I was going to say to this point here, this again, we keep coming full circle to this, right? Luckily enough, at least, Mike, I don't know you all that well, but it seems at least the three of us, that's not a voting point for us. It's luckily
my point is it was my gun.
Well, listen for him,
with Obama, healthcare was my gun. Keep going.
You definitely have it. Let's say, see, my wife. I lucked out. My wife just had like a regular job, and even when I worked at Fastenal, I was like, all right, I'll get insurance, and I got it for. Well, my daughter wasn't born at the time, but my son.
You had it there.
Yeah, I would say literally.
Well, it was better by the time you were there, but what I wanted to say was, like, I agree with there needs to be some sort of government health care, okay, but that needs to be something you opt in or opt out of.
Yeah,
and
you're supposed to have
the same way. If you can't afford it, guess what? It gets taken out of your paycheck. Because when it comes down to getting that new iPhone or those new sneakers or this, that, and the other, you're gonna pass right by that healthcare, knowing that you can't have a right to refusal if you have any issue that comes up that you need to go to a hospital for because they got to treat you. And you're just gonna get a bill.
Times?
Yeah, you're gonna get a bill in the mail. You're never gonna pay it. Et cetera, et cetera. They can't take it. You can't bankrupt it, but they can't like hold it against you. So it's like it's just this thing that the institution winds up eating, and it causes inflation everywhere else across the hospitals. And they're like, why does this keep happening? And it's like because these people need to have it. Like you can't drive anywhere in the world with a car with not having
in America, yeah.
no, I should say America without having
insurance.
It's illegal. It's illegal. You will go to jail. They will tow and
you won't go to jail, but they'll tow your car.
They'll tow your car and leave you on the side of the road. But the point being is the same thing. He's like, just take it out of the paycheck. If you can't afford it, make something that's affordable. I'm not saying it's A+ healthcare. You get the B stuff.
No, you definitely,
or maybe the C stuff. But
yeah.
you can't just you can't just not have
it. Yeah, you can't. It can't, because I was gonna say that's what happened with me, because it was like I had when I was a contractor, I had got appendicitis. And
that'll get you.
And it was one of those situations where I hadn't been to the doctor
and you needed major surgery.
It was like, I mean,
well, it's not major, but
yeah. I was like, but
appendix, right?
Yeah. I was gonna say, which is kind of, we just found out it's kind of sort of little bit needed, but not really.
Right.
But I remember going there and they were asking me, "Hey, do you have insurance?" I was like, "No." And they were like, "All right." And they still went through with the surgery and everything. And then some lady came in, some social worker was like, "Well, we can put you on this and we can put you on that." And I was like, "So, well, how much do I have to pay?" They're like, "Oh no, it's gonna be free." I forgot what she said, but basically it's gonna end up being free for me. And but she never finished the paperwork, so I still got a $4,000 bill. And when I saw it, I was like, good chance of getting out of me. And I crumbled that shit up and tossed it to the fucking side. I was like, fuck you bitches. And I was like, and it wasn't a negative thing. It was like, hey man, I could have this, or my appendix could rupture and I could become septic, I can die. Very painful death, because the guy in front of me before I went to surgery actually turned septic right in front of me.
Yeah.
Which was crazy.
Turn green.
No, I mean everything started going off. Like I'm waiting in the room, the pre-operating room or whatever.
Right.
And he was over in the corner, and all of a sudden a wheel, like beep 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 beep. And the nurse we were just laughing and joking. She ran over there, and the doctor who did the procedure came out. He was like, "We got to rush him in. He's become septic," and blah blah. And I was like, we were just fucking talking about this, being a nurse and whatever. So it's like. And I think he was like a homeless guy or something like that. And it's one of the reasons why he didn't come in until it was too late. Because he was like, basically he had to be, because he was doubled over in pain, couldn't do anything. But I mean, that really doesn't have anything to do with it. I'm just saying, like, what you're saying is true. Like, there should be something.
There's a dude that goes to my gym, and he's a nurse at a hospital in Harrisburg. Okay. And there's a guy who comes in every single week, either between a Thursday or Friday, blazed drunk. Like, he's a pure alcoholic guy. Like, I don't know if he's homeless or what. Mm-hmm. They bring him in, hook him up to an IV. He spends the night, let him out the next day. He never pays the bill, never nothing, but they can't refuse service.
Yeah.
This guy owes, I don't even know how much money, but they lose money every single time this guy comes in. He takes up a space, takes up a bed, this, that, and the other, but they can't refuse him service. He comes, he told me the amount of times. It's literally, it's like 1.5 times a week. If you average it out over 52 weeks, that's how often he hits the hospital for an IV.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, and there's no really way to go about it, but it's crazy, right? Because we want everybody to be able to get their help, but it's crazy when you think about the fact that if you can't pay it, you can't refuse it. So somebody will help you, but just because you can pay it, we're going to charge you for it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if you're giving birth, I mean, the labor fee when you go to the hospital, it's going to cost you a couple $1,000. When you go give birth.
Oh, sir, it costs $14,000. I know.
But if you can't pay it, if you can't pay it, you know what I'm saying? If you can't pay it, guess what? Then you just can't pay. Then that's okay.
It is what it is.
What's crazy? Right. So when you think about it, it's crazy. It's like, oh, just because you have the money, we're going to take the money from you. Now, I'm not saying that there's any other way to necessarily do it, but it's crazy when you think about it.
Oh, now, no. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, just to switch gears a little bit here, and not to get off topic, we can continue finishing with what we're talking about.
No, we can jump in whatever you want.
This goes into taxes, doesn't it? Right? Because it goes
100%.
All of a sudden, when you have the money, we want to take more money from you. Now, that doesn't affect us today, but I sit there and go, hey, what if one day I do make over $400,000 and now you're going to take the money from me?
Well, that's the Republican mindset.
because I have the money, you're going to take the money. Now, it's a crazy thing to think about. Now, I get it. You can sit there and say, because we're not the people with the 400,000 plus a year.
But that's everybody's goal.
But that's the goal.
Yeah.
And just because you have the money, you shouldn't have the money taken away. You got to figure out a way that it's equal across the board. If you're, it would be great in an ideal, perfect world. Oh, free healthcare. Just not going to help. It's just not going to happen.
So to your point, and I got to get this out, is because, and I wanted to say this earlier when we were doing AOC, is like everybody hates on Trump because he's a businessman. And like, well, the economy's not the end all be all. You watch CNN, NBC, whatever. It's like, he just cares about the economy. Just cares about the economy. Like, okay, first off, the economy is the well-being of America, number one. Number two, when people say government's not a business, I could see why you say that, because in principle it's not supposed to be, but it's 100% a business. You have a budget, you have employees, and they're like, well, you don't produce a product. Yes, you do. You provide a service. What is it? Protect and serve. Protect and serve. You're a service person, okay? All these things. When you're even a congressman or senator, your idea is you're supposed to serve the people, okay? You're getting paid to do a service. Yeah. So there's checks and balances. So at the end of the day, like, the way they always aim is to go for the people who have it, to your point. But it's like the things that you're chasing don't always make sense. Like if you look at the new Green Deal, right? If you don't understand business, how does raising minimum wage, $15 an hour, make any sense? You and I have worked for a shareholder company, Sean, as Mike has. Mm-hmm. They are not going to take it away from shareholders. Nope. They're going to raise the price. That's how everything goes. Like, oh, $15 an hour, guess what? Now you just created inflation. That cheeseburger went from, it's no longer on the dollar menu anymore because of inflation, number one. Number two, value meals just went up. Everything went up. And I could say, like, okay, if you can pace the price of these goods going up that don't correlate with the income, great. But they don't ever do it. And the way they do it is very disingenuous, number one. But it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. That's my rant.
I was we both would stop listening. We're like, what you say?
No.
Well, it's just stupid.
Well, I was going to say, no, the funny thing about it, this kind of goes back to the Medicare we were talking, well, not Medicare, but medical, whatever, insurance. I've taken 5 COVID tests, right?
Right.
They're free at CVS, right?
Okay.
But here's the thing. So on the, you have to take like a survey. Because one, you have to be like, they're like, look, they're trying to get the medical field handled. Like those people handled first. Really in general, because if you like, I'm not in the medical field, I don't do anything that has to be around the medical, whatever. They're like, all right, well, bye. Once you get COVID, go to the emergency room or something, but don't waste our time. So you have to put down, like, you're in some type of medical, like, position, like medical job,
medical
whatever.
Profession, whatever.
Profession. But they also say, do you have insurance? And if you put no, and you do have insurance, you'll get charged. You'll get a fine. If you say, if you don't, but no.
If you don't have it, then it's free.
Yeah, if you don't, it's free.
Right.
And I was wondering, I was like, that's weird. I was like, this, because everywhere out here is free test. Because you can go to Patient First, you can go all these places as opposed to get a free COVID test. But if you go there and they're like, oh, do you have insurance? Or you give it to them, they're actually going to charge your insurance company, which might in turn, they might come back and hit you with a fee. I don't know, because most people I know who've gotten it, like I told them what to do. I was like, hey, just say you're in a medical profession. Like, I actually do deal with the medical field to a certain extent, but I'm talking about even the people who like, they want to get tested, and they're like, you want the free one? They're like, yeah. I'm like, all right, go to CVS. This is how you fill out the survey.
Tell me your doctor.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Dr. Jenkins. I mean,
exactly. But I just thought that was weird, like back to you saying, where it was like, because you have it, they're going to charge you. It's like, but this is supposed to be free. Like, aren't we going through a pandemic right now? Like, hey, when this is just like a regular flu shot and everything is back to normal, I was like, I can understand, because if somebody goes to take a flu shot not during flu season or something like that or whatever, I don't even know if they're available like that. I was like, because I've never taken them. I don't believe
they're very, very available.
That's how the government puts nanobots in your body. But I've never taken a flu shot, and I've honestly maybe had the flu once in my life. And then I remember my wife her and my son used to take it all the time. She was like, we got to take it. And then they would get sick.
Yeah.
Immediately.
It makes no
And I'm
sense.
like, what the fuck is going on? But I just, like, back to your point about getting charged just because you have was weird. Because I was like, why would you ask during this time? Like,
Right.
you have so many people unemployed, not working, or part-time working. It's like, and you're worried about if they have insurance. Like, hell, actually, it's surprising if they do have insurance now.
Right.
It's like, and on top of that, like, why? What does it matter? Like, okay, maybe you, I don't know why you're charging the insurance company for something you said was free.
Right.
You know, so
Right.
Because they can.
see, that's the thing. It's like,
That's how they broke you in, by saying it's free.
but that's why I was putting COVID
Yeah.
testing.
I got you.
Yeah.
I also want to talk
If
about you and your guy. I'm sorry. Go ahead, buddy.
No, I was just gonna finish. Oh yeah, if you got it, they're taking it. That's it.
Exactly. What were you going to say, Mike? You want to talk about what?
No, I was going to say, because I didn't really have a good segue, but I really wanted, before we run out of time, I wanted to get on your cop buddy,
Okay, so yeah.
even though he's more than a cop. But yeah.
Got to go into, speaking of, service, if you will.
There you go.
Because I
Speaking
said
of service,
protected and
protected
served.
served. Ah, God damn it, you're right. God
I was
damn it.
I was actually thinking about the segue before.
Ah.
That's why I said it earlier. But, so, obviously
We've talked about it.
the voting election year is heavily on the BLM movement and that
Defund the
whole
cops. What is it,
defunding
ACAB?
police. All cops are
I still think
bastards.
that's
Yeah,
stupid
hashtag
thing.
ACAB.
I started
all
seeing it
this.
everywhere now that you
All
said it.
cops are bad. But
Right.
isn't that and again that takes us back to what we were saying before. Again, somebody picks a side and they just got to stick with it, and it's all of a sudden like you got Republicans who are
They're defending anything. And,
oh yeah, the Republicans are we're law enforcement.
They can
we're
do no
law
bad.
enforcement.
mhm.
And
You got the
and
other
then
side, they can
Democrats,
do no good.
and it's Black Lives Matter. It's Black Lives Matter. And what's crazy to me is like I don't see it as such a like black and white, no pun intended there, but like as it's either Black Lives Matter or law enforcement. But for somehow we got here.
Well,
Right?
the funny thing
Yeah,
about
you
it is
gotta
there's a
pick a
lot of
side.
black cops in law enforcement.
Right.
So it's
Right.
like-
Oh, but they're coons.
oh well, I would say yeah. Usually it was sellouts or something. That's what they end up being called, depending on where they stand. Because some cops are like, yeah, I'm with Black Lives Matter. They let me
Officer
know.
Tatum.
Oh no. Now I told you, Officer Tatum. I don't believe he's part of the coon crowd, but it's the other ones. No. Because I said he's a cop. He's an ex-cop.
Okay.
So him being an ex-cop, he's going to defend. It's like I've seen only literally 3 cops who didn't defend cops.
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
usually ex-cops defend cops' actions or whatever, and because they usually go, you don't know where he goes into the job every day, you're waking up, blah blah. But it's like,
So I met with the chief of police that I know,
yeah,
and
don't tell them where.
it's actually
It's just a
friends of my
small town.
wife that
Yeah.
used to work with, and point being is, we're just work comes up, we start asking the general questions, and like, all this stuff's popping in my head. Like I don't really want to
I
ask
know,
him,
yeah.
but, like, the booze started flowing. I was like, all right.
Oh yeah, I would drink.
But like
You
he
take
brought
gun
some
out and do
stuff
this?
too. Yeah, exactly. So like he was telling me this story about how they were like he's been in law enforcement forever. You know what I
For
mean?
his position, he's got at least
And-
20.
Oh yeah, and so like he's been doing it for a while. The chief of police that was there resigned. He didn't even want it. They offered it to him. Somebody else came in.
Mhm.
He did a bad job. They kicked him, and he's like, "All right, you know what? I'm just gonna take it, bite the bullet." Struggled for a while with it. And what happened was
Is he
everything.
still here? I don't hear
He
the
might have
road.
muted us.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
Oh,
muted us.
okay.
So he wanted to take it over, and so what happened was he had to promote a sergeant.
Mhm.
So 3 guys applied. Okay. Mike's laughing because he thinks he already knows where this is going. All 3 were white. I'm gonna break that down for you.
Well, I was laughing at that too. I was like, either they were white or they
Yeah.
picked a random black dude.
So, 3 guys applied, all 3 white. The one guy was tenured, right?
Mhm.
And he thought it was automatically going to be his. So to sort of thin the crowd, he's like, I put out a test. He's like, I put together a test.
Mhm.
I made it constructed. They had to find errors and things, try to find out what they knew and, how,
Yeah.
critique they were. The guy who was the veteran, he found him cheating, number one. But he didn't have it set up like, oh, if you did this, like he called it a template. If you didn't follow this template, you didn't get automatically disqualified. So like since he didn't have that in the verbiage, but it was kind of like, hey, don't do this.
Yeah.
But he wound up doing it anyway.
Well, you're a cop. You're not supposed to be.
Right. You're not supposed to be disingenuous. So point being is he caught him
You ain't
cheating.
You ain't cheating. You ain't trying. Come on now.
Yeah. Point being is they caught him cheating. He wound up having like an external part where he had the DA actually grade. So like this, that, and the other. And the guy who had been there the longest, who thought he was entitled to it, didn't get it. You know what I mean?
Did he
and
do the
he
worst?
was mad. Yes, he did the
Okay.
worst. He actually finished last and was there the longest. And so he starts throwing up all this fit to the board. And what was first thing, not the first thing, but I thought about it, I'm like, man, imagine if that guy would have been black, he would have blamed the whole thing on a race thing. But we'll get to that in a minute. So point being is like I'm talking to him about all these things, and then of course that segued into me asking more and more questions, and I was like, the thing that you brought up and we talked about multiple times is about like the service piece. Like well, these cops shouldn't shoot because they're automatically like you signed up for this. That's the way everybody says you signed up for this, and he's like, no, because and I was kind of like taken back because I thought he would take like he was like no.
Oh, really?
Like real hard about it. He's like, what you sign up for is like prime example, public shootings. He's like, if there's a public shooter, let's just say in a school, you got a kid just shooting up the school. You're called to that, right? You show up to that. Or shots fired. You're called to that. You show up to that. You're showing up with the expectation of today I might die. You're going into that willingly knowing in that transaction you're gonna you're gonna die. Like it could potentially die. I should say gonna, but he said the difference is with the compliance piece, everybody acts like you're supposed to be a martyr. He's like, if I tell you to do this, and he gave me an example. He's like, for instance, say a guy's holding a gun, and he's just not even like just at his side. He's just holding a gun. He's got a gun in his hands, and I say, drop the gun. If he doesn't drop the gun, I know within 2 seconds I can take him down. He might not even pointed it at me yet, but he's not complying, so he's already told me his intentions with that gun. And I was like, and I didn't. It made perfect sense the way he was saying it to me because I was like, yeah, because I was talking about like shoot the leg, about Joe Biden's thing right now. Oh, shoot him in the leg, and he's
Is
like,
that what is that?
yeah, he's like, trained cops shoot him in the leg. He's like, first off, all the training that they're talking about people doing, we're all already doing that. That type of training happens on a daily basis. Threatening situations, et cetera, et cetera. He's like, and then I went into like, okay, how do you weed out the bad cops? He's like, okay, prime example. If you pull your taser, he's like, the second you pull your taser, you have to fill out a report and you go for a psych eval. Why did you pull that taser? And you go through a rigmarole. So the last thing you want to do is pull that taser because now you got a boatload of paperwork.
Yeah.
You don't want to pull it. Last thing you want to do.
What about
he's like,
the gun, isn't it?
well, and that's what he says. He's like, you'd rather pull the gun, but the thing is like, because I mentioned exactly what you said, because the same thing that you said with him popping the belt and pulling it out of the holster. He said, nothing happens there. He's like, that is just a precaution of him being safe. Because I've told him, like, you always see cops, they come up to the window, they pop the belt right off, and they might not even do it, but you'll see him flip the thing off the gun on the way up. He's like, they're just being safe. He's like, I've actually had on traffic stops where I've put the gun behind my back before I even approached the car.
Really?
Because it just was, I was in a bad area, like in the middle of nowhere, not like a bad area like you're thinking. In the middle of nowhere,
like
in the sticks. No backup, no
yeah.
nothing. He's on duty, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's screwed if something goes south, so he's got the gun behind him.
Yeah.
And he just approaches the car. That he knows they can't see it.
That's funny.
And then he'll walk slowly around and put it right back in front of him, walk back to the car, and put it back in. Like, no harm, no foul. But he said, until you point the weapon, he said, that's when it goes to the next level of the incident, and now you have to go through the psych eval. Yeah. But he said, like, if you like click undo the button or pull it out slightly, unholster. He's like, that's nothing. He's like, that's completely, you are completely within your rights as a cop to grab, pull, behind, just don't point. He's like, if you point. Now the taser's a different story. The second that comes out, you're filing a report. But it's weird. The other thing I went on to was he made a very good point. I was like, okay, yeah, but you hear about this cops and like, the police unions and they protect them and this, that, and the other, and they go to another station. He's like, look, he's like, if that happens, he's like, that's the most far-fetched thing ever, because he's like, as chief of police, you have so much pressure on you from everything else. If a cop, you're getting complaint after complaint after complaint. He's like, a cop couldn't use his turn signal. You're getting a complaint about it. If the cop didn't do this, you're getting a complaint about it. He turned left on a yellow. You're getting a complaint about it. He's like, the last thing you want to do is hire a guy with a rap sheet or that did. He said, look, he said it's not that it doesn't happen or it couldn't happen, but he's like most cops, because this comes back to, again, it's not all or none. There's the shades of gray that we always talk about. And he's like, not to say he couldn't go to the next county and get hired. He could.
Yeah.
But a good chief of police, seeing that coming in, is like, nah, I'm going to pass. Because you don't want to have to deal with the ramifications of just hiring him, yet alone anything he's going to do. Just everybody knowing that you hired him, you would have to deal with so much stuff and so much paperwork and scrutiny, microscopic lens. They're going to be, and I
you got
guarantee
the shitty guy
you,
from over here.
You got Dooba from next door who did this thing, and it's all over the news. You're getting pelted with
it. There's a problem in the world today, and the problem is what, like clickbait, like what people like to see, right?
Oh yeah,
I mean,
it gets exacerbated.
You turn the news on, and you look at the type of things that the news wants to show, right? They know that people want to see it, right? They're not going to find the good story. They want to find the bad story, and it goes back to, I keep going back to this, but there's red and there's blue. There's the right and the left, and it for some reason
we skip gray.
We are constantly trying to push out there, and we also discussed how the mainstream media definitely sways toward the Democratic side. So what do they want to show? They want to show every bad cop story they can possibly find, because they know that that's ratings.
Well,
that's what they care about.
I would say what's funny is I saw recently, and this one it didn't get any news or whatever, but it was like a cop shooting or maybe even an arrest or something like that. And it was kind of like on a local level. Like I saw like a little protest, but nothing crazy. I think because I don't think the guy died. I think they like roughed him up or something like that. And they were talking about it. And it was like, and it's funny because just what you're saying, it was like a white officer arrested a black man, and I was like, why? Well, why'd
you bring that
into?
Into? So,
I'm saying, but and this was fucking local news.
Live and die by it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but now,
Well, hold on.
I gotta get my ACAB on. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know you're about to. So he made.
I don't actually believe in ACAB. I just want to.
He made another solid point to me. He was like, look, this guy. Did you hear about the state trooper that died? I'm like, no. He said, so this guy went to, and he's like, I've been guilty of this myself because I didn't follow protocol because I thought the guy was okay was cool, and I let him go. So like when you think a cop's being an a-hole and you're like, oh, he's like, no. So like when you're under arrest, it's over, game over. So this state trooper went to serve a warrant, gets to the house. The guy's mom is there. Guy's mom's there. He goes in, the guy's on the couch. He's like, hey, man, serving a warrant, blah, blah. He's like, oh, yeah, okay. Gets up. He's talking fine. Everything's cool. Yeah. He doesn't arrest him, doesn't cuff him. He thinks everything's fine. He's like, hey, can I go get my coat real quick? Guy's like, yeah, sure. Go get your coat. Mom's sitting on the couch next to him. Guy goes, gets the coat, quote, unquote, coat, comes back with a gun, shoots the cop in the face, kills him. And he's like, he's
next to the mom?
Next to the mom. He's like, dude, the guy's mom's there. Nobody thinks they're going to shoot you in front of their mom.
Yep.
And he's like, as a younger officer, he's like, I've made that mistake so many times because I gave the person a benefit of a doubt because I thought, well, they're complying or this, that, and the other. And then they turn up and they're putting on a show, nothing bad would happen. But he's like, I can't tell you how many times I thought like it won't happen to me. And then you hear this guy in not even a bad area, this, that, and the other. And I my guess is it was white on white dude, white guy, white cop, because you didn't hear about it in the news. But like that type of stuff doesn't get put on a platform as if like someone resisting.
No,
and of course, you have the exaggerations or the bad ones like the Floyd incident, but you know what I'm saying?
And again, there's bad people, there's bad cops. You can look at it any way you want. The problem becomes, again, is what's being shown out there is what they want to be shown. And then people get this bad image in their head one way or the other, right? One way or the other. Somebody's got to pick a side, and it doesn't need to be that way. I mean, it should be well known that cops are getting shot day in and day out throughout the year, like that's not just going to make the news all the time. And like you said, whether it's a white person or whatnot being shot, that's not going to make the news. Like the media is choosing what they want to show, and it's a shame. And that's what the problem is that the stuff that gets put out there is evil. It's bad shit, man. And it's giving the country a bad taste in their mouth, one way or the other. You know,
especially
it's going to be
now.
Oh yeah,
right.
Because I was telling me and Steve were talking, and I was like, that's the reason why, like, because so I'll tell you quick, like with Black Lives Matter, I always tell Steve I agree with the sentiment because I can't not agree with the sentiment because I have a black wife, black kids,
and you're black.
Yeah, I'm black. My family's black. I was like, I mean, there's like one or two. It's like white, maybe Hispanic. Then on my mother's side, Puerto Rican. It doesn't matter. But I'm saying, I was like, I agree with the sentiment, but I also told Steve, I was like, they should have been the ones to adopt All Lives Matter more than Black Lives Matter. I was like, because it just helped out. I'll be honest with you. I was like, I told him I never really fully agreed with Black Lives Matter because it was like they started out with some things that sounded good, and then I noticed, like you said, we're kind of with everything. It was like when people come in, the money comes in, the fame comes in, because BLM's been around since before Obama got in office, but it didn't blow up until now because one.
Well, they blew up before.
No, they were no
2016.
Not like this.
Being no, that's what I'm saying. Like being known versus $1 billion later, like you said. That's like, so what I'm saying is like, because everybody's been at home, the news always has been putting out the bad stuff. No, you don't have, like, not only is everybody out of work, but we all have phones. We all can see the news. Like, whatever you like, oh, I don't watch the news. Why? I usually I'm getting off work and I don't want to see it. I put on my favorite show. Right, or it was after work and I went straight out and I went to the gym or whatever. Like, all the things that you could do got taken away. So that's why I was like, why everything blew up so much and you saw this all across the country, hell, the world, was because everybody at one point in time was at home. So, I mean, it could have been.
You're right.
I say this could have been like it could have been
added
better
attention.
Exactly. Let's say added attention. So if I've been out of work for the past 4 months, not because I actually did anything wrong, not because I was bad at my job or whatever. Now I lose my job, the company goes under, I'm on unemployment, then they cut that unemployment. Well, you know what I'm saying? Like it literally became that everybody compounded, and that's why everybody's like. It's like if you go home and all you do is watch the negative shit and you just stay in your little cave, your little man cave, and you just negative and on your phone is negative. I was watching a show called it's called Evil, and it's funny because it was a guy, a nice guy. They showed him at the beginning, and it's like he's goes to the coffee shop. He kind of gets dissed by a girl, right?
Right.
No, not even that. I'm sorry. It's not a coffee shop. He goes to this gas station, and it's like an Indian guy. He has a turban on and everything. Nice guy, simple interaction. But he's watching this show, right? It's on The Boys. I'm sorry, on The Boys. He's watching this show that keeps saying that these people are terrorists. These people are blah, blah. Right. So every day he keeps doing the same thing. He goes in, but now he's just used to watching on his phone, but then he started watching on TV. Then he started watching on his laptop. And now every day it keeps going. It keeps going. It keeps going. And
well, listen, that's why I tell you every day you're racist. I mean, at some point in time, I'm convincing you that you are. I get it.
But every day, but it's funny because every day, and you see it's like a 2-week period, and you see him go same spot, and he starts looking at the guy. Like same guy smiles at him every day. Nothing changes on the other guy's side, but this guy starts mean mugging him. He starts looking at him. He starts plotting. He starts doing this, and then by the end, he's like. He like shakily holds the gun. He's like, "Are you one of them?" And he's like, and the guy's like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he shoots him in the head. And then he realizes like, "Oh shit, what have I done?" And then he goes to prison. And they use that as I know. They use that as like a. But it was funny because they like what you're saying, all the badness, and when you're stuck in that cycle of just watching bad, perpetually more and more evil stuff. Hold on, Steve. That's like that's what happens. He's literally waving his hand and over here. But I'm saying that, and you fucking me up when I'm trying to talk. See, I was like, but I'm saying that because it happens with the cops too. Because it's like don't get me wrong. I can tell you right now, people have felt negatively about the cops for a while.
Oh yeah, that's nothing new.
It's not. This has nothing to do. It happened. Bush, Clinton, Obama. It happened before
It's
that.
been around.
It's been around for decades. This isn't new. What's new is social media. What's new are camera phones.
Right.
That's what's new. Like, because I remember I told you Will Smith said he was like the police brutality and all this. He was like, this isn't new. It's just caught on camera now. And I was like, now that's his side saying that. And I told you the same thing. I was like, yeah, if I can record you kicking somebody's ass rather than say, hey man, this guy over here, like the fucked up cop, like, hey, this fucked up cop.
Cameras are a good thing.
I was like, and that's what I told.
As a whole,
I was like, cameras are good because it can show when
right.
somebody's bullshitting you. Like when you finally arrest somebody, he's like, hey, he's over here arresting me because I'm black or because he's racist. And the cop's like, whoa, wait, you got 2 warrants, man. I put these cuffs on you lightly. I've been talking to you nice, that type of shit.
The flip side is the bad side of the camera. We don't see all the footage. We want to clickbait edit. You know what I mean? Like we were saying earlier, it's a clickbait society. But the point is to get back to what you were saying about the, you said Indian.
I mean, that was just that show.
Right. But the point of the premise of that show was this guy had a turban on his head, right? So after a time of influence, outside influence, this guy assumes he's bad, right? And you see, this is to the point that I always make to you. It's like with the cultural oppression thing of being a certain color, and you go back to the statistic of saying, okay, Asians make the most out of any culture in the country or color, if you will. And it goes back to
race.
When, exactly. But my point is saying, like, okay, we go back to say this person's oppressed or this person's not oppressed, but you've been told time and time and time and time again by this thing called media or social media, and everybody, like, you talked about like your uncles or this, that, and the other being like, how is this not better? Like, how is it downtrending now? It's it's supposed to be, it's always progressed to getting slowly better. And yes, it's always taken time, but suddenly I heard Jim Brown say something a long time ago, like racism's worse now than ever. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, Jim Brown?
You couldn't go in certain buildings because you were black. Like,
right.
You sure about
and
that?
What's crazy is I've heard a lot of stuff that Jim Brown has said over the years, and I've agreed with every single thing that he said. Yeah. And he's even reached out and talked to Trump multiple times. And he's like okay with Trump. He's good with Trump. So it's like, but
that got a McCoon title.
Yeah, it probably did. But see, that's
ain't no problem. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
50 Cent is in that space right now.
Of course, because of taxes.
Yeah.
And that's another funny thing is, like, when I've heard this on Joe Rogan's show, he's like, hey, Joe Rogan has said millions of times, if I had to pay a little more taxes, I'd be fine with that and made somebody else's life better. What's he do? He gets a big deal and he moves to Texas to avoid taxes. You're really all about paying that taxes to make somebody's life better. You're like, no, I'm gonna get out of here and keep my money.
They're like, hey, we're gonna send a check on
color truth comes out there.
Exactly. Like, we're gonna send it on January, July. Like, we're gonna move this whole thing in May.
Right. But my point is getting away from the narrative. Like, okay, there's good people, bad people. It can't always be black and white. There has to be shades of gray. Look, and I'm not gonna say there's not things that have been done in the past, because we've talked about that multiple times and starting from behind. But at the same time, the idea that you're just everything then can be racist.
Well, I was gonna say
everything can be racist.
Cops, I was gonna say, going to the cop part, I was gonna say that now and this is where I always battle with, because I'm like, I have common sense, even though I hear the sentiment.
You hear a lot of non-common sense.
I like the things that you're like, oh, people are doing this. I hear that from certain people I know, or like Facebook or whatever. I hear it, and then I look at something. I'm like, well, I gotta use my common sense. Like, and that's when it was like, I mean, I started feeling this way probably.
He shot at him.
Yeah, it was like late 20s, and I was like, I can't agree with everything, guys. And then I noticed when I did, it was like it became an issue. Like, hold on, what do you do? You like like you said, your liberal friend or whatever.
Right.
He's called a conservative by his liberal friends, and you think he's the biggest goddamn liberal that there is. I mean, not just you, but
he's got common sense. Like, I can talk him off the ledge, but he gets on the phone on the ledge, and I'm like, dude.
But see, that's what I'm saying. I actually never really go to each ledge. I'm like, nah, I can't. I don't
you gotta live in reality.
I say I don't see. There you go, Steve.
I think you got to be able to see, both sides of things. Again, I think that the problem is, for some reason, we're stuck in this ideal or this idea situation where it's got to be one way or the other, and it really doesn't. Though.
Well, we don't live that way.
No,
there's
not at all.
almost nothing that is, but yet everybody's going to, especially lately, everybody's going very hard in the paint of like, you either feel this way or you don't.
Yes.
And I'm like,
Oh,
nah,
man,
that's not true. I can look at it and be like, well, there's some bad cops out there, some bad situations, and I could also look at it and be like, well, I
bad
still,
people.
yeah. I mean, like, I watch some of these videos that people take. I see, you see all the stuff that people put out in social media, white, black, indifferent. I mean, these like, it could be a white kid sitting in his car and he's pulling out his phone and videotaping because a cop pulled him over and is asking for something. And he's like, I don't need to give you that. And he's videotaping this, and then the cop gets mad and they're like, he shouldn't. And I'm like, just give the cop what he asked for. Like, I just almost crapped my pants going 45 past the cop. Like, I'm still, I'm the guy, like, yeah, I'm scared when there's a cop around. Like, I don't understand how people just don't obey the cop. Like, I get it. You don't want to give him too much power, and he shouldn't abuse the power. And there are certain situations that I may never get in. But at the same time, like, if the cop asks for your license or your ID, just give him the ID. Don't bitch and complain about why he's asking.
You made a really good point there, and I've actually gotten pulled over and asked this question by a cop. Is people just assume because you're white and you get pulled over, you're like, I'm good. It's all all love.
Well, that's
like,
because the videos where they show people going crazy is usually some
white people and they get away with it.
Like, yeah, you're like the one I saw, and it used to be on. You remember Wildest Videos? It used to come on like regular TV, like if you had regular TV, it'd be like Wildest Videos, something, volume, whatever. And it always used
was like Girls Gone Wild for white people and cops.
But it was like they would show police chases, all the crazy stuff.
Right.
And it was always this one video of like the 90s. And I tell you, this cop was the fucking epitome of patience and understanding. Because this white lady, I'm talking about one of them fat, older white ladies.
Oh, man.
Who's just like, she was, yeah, motherfucker, how dare you? I mean, she's yelling hysterically. And he's just like, ma'am, I need your stuff. And what's funny is I was watching this and I think my aunt or like some older people that I know, and they were like, he wouldn't be that calm if she was black. And they would walk out of the room. Because we're just looking at it, and even as a kid, because I was like a kid. I was like a preteen.
So here's the thing here. I believe that there is truth to that. I think that that's the one biggest problem here is that I think there's a lot more patience. I mean, again, this goes to what we're shown, right? Now, I can't speak for what happens day in and day out as for police officers, but for what we see, you see more patience with a white person than with a black person, and that's where a lot of this, rhetoric comes from.
Yeah, me and Steven talked about this, and it's funny.
I think you got to go into right now for your perspective on this is like the seeing of the same, like, okay, you're in an area, right? And you see the same bad thing over and over and over and over again. And that's actually the chief police talking about a bit is like, listen, like,
oh yeah, where
seeing all the negative about somebody, you see murder, you get getting this PTSD,
I was telling
and all of a sudden this is the enemy. They're not civilians,
they're not, exactly.
And you didn't go in there; you went in there protect and serve, and you came in through like militant because you're in the trenches. Well, and unfortunately, it's a bad area.
Job. I said, well, on top of that, your job is only to see they only call you. But so what Steve was talking about is I told him I was like there is implicit bias or maybe unconscious bias because like right now and I told him I was like if I'm a white guy from Idaho and I go down to Baltimore City, right? That's just where I could get a job. They offered me the job. I took it. I like the salary. I want to help protect, serve, all that good stuff. If I'm only called, which policemen normally are, for the bad, somebody broke into something, somebody shot something, somebody stole something, whatever, rape, whatever. If all I ever see is bad of this one group of people, and I'm in this area, and because I'm new, I work the night shift or whatever, all the things that come with it. And then after a while, and it's going to happen to anybody, after a while, you're going to start thinking negatively of this group of people. It doesn't matter when you meet new people we'll just say black people. When you meet new black people, doesn't matter how good, you're always going to think that in the back of your mind. Like you're always going to have that in your mind. And it's one of the reasons why I say cops who are like on duty, because they overwork them, underpay them, all that shit. At least the like beat police. I was saying they should be on the desk. Like if you go out there for 3-4 months, you should sit down for a month or two or something. Like depressed, because and any therapist, whoever will tell you like you have to decompress so you don't end up doing it. Because if you get to the point where you come in every day 12 months a year for years and years and years, and because of whatever issue, this area doesn't really ever get better, or you just see more negative, and then you become that negative cop. You become that aggressive cop. You become that person that you said you never would.
Right.
It's one of those situations where it's like, I can understand it. Like I tell Steve all the time, I can understand how some people become racist or how some people have racist thoughts, because I told him, I was like, I met somebody who actually I didn't tell him that I knew the person, but I just told him I knew somebody who basically, they were like, I used to have a negative view about black people, and he was like, but you're real cool and this, that, and third, and met more people as he got older. He was like, but when I was younger, I had a real bad view, and I was like, why? I'm giving him attitude like, why the fuck would you, man? You might be racist. He's like, no, man. When he was like, when I was younger, it used to be this group of black guys who would kick my ass every day. He was like, they would take my stuff, kick my ass, talk about me. He was like, this shit went on for basically all of high school. But he got bullied by a group of black kids, and he thought negatively of black people because of it. It didn't matter that he had black friends. It didn't matter that he might have had people. It was just because, again, it's kind of like a comment on Facebook or something like that. Like you could have 100 people agreeing with you, but that one person who disagree with you, you're going to give them way more time and energy than you would have before you learn not to do that. You're going to be like, well, 100 people like this, but this one motherfucker like it. I want to see why this motherfucker, let me look at his page. Let me see how some bitch would do, like,
right.
You go into this investigative mode. At least I know I have, and it seems most people do. And it's like, you focus on that. So he didn't focus on his friends that he had who were like, man, like who also were probably getting bullied by those people. But he was, we all think individually, especially as we get older and we don't see the same people used to. Because I know usually once people get out of college, it's like if you're in college, you see everybody, you meet everybody, and then you go into basically the real world, get a job, and now you live around predominantly the people who look like you. It just happens. It's like, it's not even like I'm purposely doing this. It's just kind of how life is.
It's how it's always been.
Exactly.
And
what I'm saying, so by saying that, it's like I can understand, like that guy telling me that he used to think, badly of black people, or I have some type of racist thoughts or whatever. It's like I can understand it because there was a reason. The people I don't understand is they've never been around black people, they've never grown up, or whatever race, and they have a bias against them. And I'm like, hold on, how many black people you know? Well, that doesn't matter. Like, it kind of does, because you're
well, at the same time, is you could have never met a grizzly bear in your life, and the first time you face a grizzly bear, you were going to be scared out of your mind. Well, I know what you're saying, but again, you're going back to like the way Hollywood is portrayed, and this is what I kind of think is hilarious: is how liberal Hollywood is. It's like,
wait, what?
well, look, like we talked about how like blacks are portrayed by Hollywood, especially in the 90s. It's like, you want to be, you want to be. Well, you know what I mean. Yeah. It's gotten better, but it was always like, they were never the good guys. Like, you want to be the thug or this or that.
Few of them.
Sugar Hill or something,
Yeah, you talk about like middle country, like white boy, like Idaho. You were saying, like if you went from, and
predominantly white,
yeah, I'm talking about not from experience. I don't know at what the culture's like in Idaho, but I'm just picturing it. I'm picturing in my head, a guy from Idaho and then goes to be a cop in Baltimore. So I guess to Steve's point, especially like in the 90s, if you're talking about like the kind of like hip hop you got out there, and then what Hollywood's portraying, that's all they know, because. Yeah, the media, because they didn't live around anybody.
Yeah, let's say everything you're seeing is coming from something else, an outside source, not your own.
Which Which again, I said the '90s, but when you think about it today, think about what's happening, right? I mean, it's crazy because the media likes this hate media because
because it's money. It's
money. It's money.
Well, it's like
money.
a wreck, man. If you see a wreck, you just can't help but to watch. Like you're like, oh, you look out the window.
Mad at the people who stopped in front of you, like you sons of bitches.
You stop rubbernecking, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, and you slow down. Okay, that was bad. That was bad. I'm glad I slowed down. You know, you made a good point about would you say Idaho?
No, I'm saying because
he said Idaho.
No, I said it to him about you got a cop from wherever he's been around, nothing but white people, whatever, and then he goes in Baltimore City, and that's how you build because. Again, cops are only called when things are bad. Right. So it's not like they're like, hey, get on this ice cream social right now. We need you.
Right.
Like,
you just get the worst.
Like, it's always like
somebody on both sides.
So I was like.
So it's that plus the media. It's like, you're looking down a smoking gun right there.
See, because I told Steve the same thing goes. I told him I think I have a couple of ideas of how things can get better relations. I was like, because one, a lot of these police departments, especially in like bad or worse areas or whatever, they don't do the community part. Like they're supposed to protect and serve the community, but they're just trying to protect and they're not really serving. Like I said, all this money that goes into policing nowadays, like there's not a lot of too many police departments that are like, oh man, we just don't have the funds for it, or at least I won't say big cities. In big cities, that's not the case. It's like, but if you're going to these areas, like when's the last time you guys have held, like in the summertime? Like in the summertime, at least once a month, the cops should have barbecues, should have whatever. They should get the best PR people there, the best cops who interact with the public best. They should be out there. Like I should know Officer Johnson is really good at basketball because when they come and have the little cookout or whatever, he always kills us. He's always, he shoots the best threes. Oh man, he's great. I should know Officer Johnson as that guy. I shouldn't know, shit, here comes Officer Johnson. He's gonna beat my fucking head in. Like, I shouldn't know that the only time I see you is when you're knocking heads and arresting people and then you leave. Like, you should be a part. You don't have to live in the community. I don't agree with having to live in the community because, no offense, if it's a shitty community, I don't want to live there. Like, it doesn't matter, white, black, whoever you are, you don't want to live there. Like, if I'm doing good enough, if I make $80,000 and my wife makes $80,000, I'm not going to want to live in somewhere that fucking costs $500 a month to live. Like, why would I do that? Like, I want to go get a house. I want to go be better. I want to put my kids in better. But I also should know people in that community. Even if I'm not from it, it's easy. Like, it's not easy for everybody. Like, we're people, I want to say people persons, but we're likable. We, being a salesman, whatever, you know how to talk to people, you know how to work. Yeah. It's like, so being a police officer.
You're an extrovert.
Exactly. And they should force you. Like, you should go, like I said, especially summertime when the kids are out, because that's usually when a lot of crime happens, summertime. You get a lot more shootings, a lot more crime, whatever. So, like, hey, let's get these kids out of here. Like, you want to, like, oh, man, I heard a cop say, hey, we had however many people qualified for the academy 10 years, like, not 10 years, like a few years ago. He's like, now we don't have enough to meet, a full class like we used to or whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, because one, the image is bad. It's like, how many times are you coming out in the community? What are you doing for the community? So, if you're getting, like I said, we had this problem with like military money, like you want a tank and shit and you want all this wonderful weaponry.
Militarization of the police.
Militarization of the police force. Like, you want all this money. Like, okay, take some of that money, and this is where people, kind of like with Make America Great Again, right? You understood Make America Great, bring jobs in, blah, 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 right? And I even told you, I was like, well, that's not what he said, right? So defund the police, it shouldn't be defund the police. It's like, look, this money has been allocated here.
Reallocate.
How about we reallocate to helping these communities that people are.
But that's not what was said.
No, exactly.
To your point.
Right. Exactly.
See,
that's not what it was. Just
it was like,
no,
get rid of the cops. We're going to start our own little social sunshines and rainbows cops that are going to go around and give people hugs when they break crimes. You know what I mean?
No, what we need to do is literally be people, like you said, live in reality and be like, okay, look, I'm going to talk to you. If all you do is come through knockheads, you're not going to get any information out of me. I don't know you. I don't trust you.
Right.
But if I know, again, Officer Johnson or Smith or whoever, like he comes down and he's like, look, man, that's Miss Johnson. That's Miss Mabel's whatever. That's her boy who just got shot, man. Like, what's going on, guys? Like, we were working, and you grew up knowing me. You see me in the community doing positive things. rather than just come through and knock some heads.
Yeah, it's a report.
It's a report. Now I'm like, look, I may not say anything about boys, but look, come around the corner. Look, this is what it is. Blah 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 blah. And you don't have.
Let me ask you this: in like a low income area, whether it's a city or a town, do you think that they would be responsive to that? Like, do you think
right
that they
now?
would want?
Yes. So here's the thing: everybody thinks that the thugs run the area. When we're talking about, say, an area of 10,000, right?
Right.
I'll give you. I won't even say 1,000. I'll say less than 1,000. I'll say a few hundred. It's usually because it only, and we all do this like we were talking about. It only takes one person to fuck up the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like they say, one bad apple spoils a bunch, right?
Just like the cops.
Exactly, same thing. So it's like usually the people in that area, one, they might be old. They might have been there when it was a decent area, whatever. They can't afford stuff, whatever. There's a reason why people are there. It's not because they're just like, you know what? I like it here. I like the gunshots and the murder and the rape and the drugs.
Right.
It's like, no. It's like,
You're stuck.
I can't fucking afford it. Like, yeah, when I used to live in a bad area, when I was poor and on my own, it was like, nah, I know I'm gonna do better than this. I was like, this is starting.
I'm going to bring up a kind of a question to that. You know what I think is weird is that so if people live in a bad neighborhood, you know what they never want to do, and hey, believe me, I don't want to do it either, is go live next to Steve in the middle of fucking nowhere.
No, nobody wants to do that. What I would rather have, what I would rather have is my community that is bad turn good. Like,
right.
It used to be, most of them used to be good, but hold on,
Go ahead.
I'm gonna jump on the question you asked first. I was like, they are actually. I was like, the reason being, like I said, because most of the time, these areas that have crime in them, it's not the whole area. It's literally, you have so many people who are going to work, so many people who might be disabled, so many older people, you have younger people. You have this crowd of literally, I would say 10%, maybe, and that's not even, I'm talking about big, like maybe 10%, and they're fucking it up for everybody. They're really fucking it up for everybody. And then what happens is, I see the police, and I only see the police come in and knock it hit. Like, I actually have known some cops, and I've seen cops' stories where they're like, the reason why I became a cop is because it used to be this cop or cops who came in and they would fuck us up. And I wanted to get in from the inside and stop that and blah, blah, blah. So what I'm saying is like, everybody thinks that the whole area is bad. Like, oh man, it's like, no, it might be a low income area, but that doesn't mean it necessarily has to be bad. It's just that, you know, and then this kind of can go on to like, you know, not enough job opportunities, people thinking the wrong things, society teaching the wrong thing. Like I said, rap music, social media, whatever. But it's usually, if they go in them areas, I guarantee, you got to go in there right. You got to go in there with a bouquet of flowers. You just can't go in there with a handshake when people been used to you slapping them. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's right now at this time, you know, point in time in history. It's like, but yes, if you go in there and you throw something for the kids, because that's who you want to get. You want to get those kids before the guys on the street corners get them, whatever, because they're going to be the ones who, like, when they're when they're, like I said, Officer Johnson, like, the drug dealers might know Officer Johnson as an ass kicker, arrester, or whatever. I won't even say ass kicker, but like, he arrests them, get them out of there. It's like, but you might have an 8-year-old kid who's like, man, Officer Johnson's fucking awesome, man. Like, he makes all the people that I'm afraid of go away who are doing bad and who harm my community. Like, I'm telling you, I've seen it in person where it's like, I've known somebody who's in law enforcement or wasn't. I'm like, man, you're a fucking awesome person because I know you. But again, if you only come in, knock heads, and then leave, no, you're not going to ever get a good response. That's never happened. In the military force, any time in history when that's happened, it's never been good. And it's never going to be a like or love for you. But come in there, give them a reason to like you, give them a reason to love you, and you're going to get it. Yeah, it's going to take time like anything else. Like, I think some people are like, no, you should love the cops now. I'm like, no, because this officer slapped the fuck out of me last week when he thought I was sassing him, and nothing fucking happened.
You're not just going to turn around and respect it.
Yeah. It's like, it's going to take a while. Again, like I said, turkey drives, coat drives, and I know some places do this. Like, you should, all year long, you should be in that community. Not just hurting them. I'm not saying hurt them, not just arresting them, but you should be in that community helping, giving out the helping hand once or twice a month. If you can afford it, you should be doing it. especially if you know the ailments of the area. If you know it's a lot of
Right.
homeless, you know it's a lot of income, low income, kids aren't getting fed, kids, whatever. You should be in that area helping. And that's like I said, police chief, that should be your first goal. It's like, look, we have
Community.
If
You're here to serve.
Yeah, I say if your community's not, if your police department's not already doing that, you should be like, look, here's my new initiative. We're going to get these people
On our side, right?
on our side.
But see, at the same time, on the flip
Right.
side of that, you'll
What's
see
that?
in the black community is snitches get stitches. We
Well,
don't help the cops.
But
You don't
know
tell
why?
the cops nothing.
you know why?
You know what I mean?
Because I never see you until something bad happens, and you want me to trust you
That you're gonna be there
that
when
you're
I
gonna-
need you.
exactly,
And that's a
'cause-
good point.
Because what happens
There has
is,
to be a trust level
exactly. Because what happens is I tell you, like, because trust me, there was a
there. You know,
good,
I'll give it what's due.
a good point in time where that happened. When something happened, they can go, "Hey, look, this is what we happened." But what happened was the cops didn't protect the community.
You said you were gonna help.
Yeah.
I ratted, and then you bailed,
And then I
my
got
house
fucked
got
up,
burned down.
or I got
Yeah, yeah.
killed, or I had to move.
That's a good point.
It's like, so it's just that. It's like, hey, man,
You got yours, I
Criminals-
didn't get mine.
exactly. I was like, you got that guy off the street, but guess what? That guy had friends and family, and they know I told on him, and now they're trying to kill me or hurt me. Like, and you're nowhere around because we didn't build trust. You don't know me.
So I got to bring this full circle.
Go ahead.
I got to bring this full circle with the point as to why you said like the AOC thing, and you're like, you're like, oh, I love it. So like, okay,
No, I like it
Let-
because I'm an asshole.
right, I get it, but the point is like, okay, I think her section's Brooklyn, correct? If I'm not mistaken. And if not,
I
she's
wanna
got a part of
say,
it because
yeah.
that's where Amazon wanted to go with
I think
Brooklyn.
she's from Brooklyn.
So the point is like, okay, you run into this area of what happened to these areas. And basically, you had redlining, but what basically was redlining? Redlining was you had an area, black people moved in, the white people said, hell no, and they left. They took their jobs, they took their business, they were gone. So you had a community left of people, and it wound up just, they had no
They didn't have
wealth. They had no wealth, no business, this, that, and the other.
on the way to build it.
Right, and then it just dissipated, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and this is what kills me is because okay, if the white guy, and unfortunately that's the way it's always told, brings the company back, it's
Jeff Bezos.
gentrification, okay? So like Amazon's like, hey, let's put a business here. We're gonna provide jobs,
I need to look that
and
up.
with jobs comes it was a tax thing. She was
she big
basically
on the tax?
bitching about
Yeah.
taxes. And it was stupid because they were going to like, oh, we're going to give them this huge tax break. It's going to hurt the community. It's like, and this is where I come back to, if you don't have any sense of business, you don't belong in government because income tax and taxes paid by people in that area, AKA sales tax, that helps your state. You're an idiot. Why would you not want money pumped through an area? That brings other people in because they know there's money there. So if they know, it's a coffee shop or a sub shop, your local mom and pop thing, they're like, hey, we know Amazon's there. What you know what Texas Roadhouse's business model is?
No.
They open a Texas Roadhouse within X miles of a Walmart.
Really?
Anytime you find a Texas Roadhouse, you're guaranteed there's a Walmart within 2 miles because they know who's ever's going to go to Walmart is going to go to Texas Roadhouse. And that's
It's
messed
your
up.
birthday, honey. You can get a Coke tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Get on the saddle. They know poor white people go to Walmart and they love Texas Roadhouse, so they're going to go to
Hey,
both.
man, don't you put that on poor white people? Because
Oh,
I
man.
love poor black people too. I love goddamn Texas Roadhouse.
Look, I worked there for years. I'm just
Is that where
telling
you
you,
work?
that's how the business model is. They're
Oh,
like,
okay.
it's always within
I thought you worked
X
at Red
range.
Lobster.
I did that too. But it was always within X range of a Walmart, and that's why.
That's hilarious.
And it works for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But the
it
point
works.
is one thing brings another, which brings another, which brings another, because they're
Yeah.
like, I'm going to put this here because that's there. You know what I mean? That's why you see like fast food joints next to the other. It's like, well, if his line's long, mine will be short.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Like, there's not like a fast food joint and then 6 miles down the road,
Well-
there's another one. They're all in the same cluster.
The only problem with gentrification, and I'll be sure, is like usually it prices the people who live there out. Now that has to do with developers, realtors, people who own it. It's like because nobody doesn't want to see new, fancy, nice stuff.
Right, of course.
That's like
But that raises the price naturally.
exactly. But that's what I'm saying, and that's the problem. That's why people hate because it's like, hold on, I've been able to afford this place, and now you made it look all pretty, and now I can't afford this place.
Right.
So and then you have the shady people.
Well, that's what
coming
people-
in.
But
Yeah.
that happens. Like, so this is like, I kind of made a joke about it before, but what I was getting at is, so like, yeah, I can't live just anywhere I want. Like, if I want to go live in a nice area in San Diego, just probably not going to be able to afford it. But you got to make the sacrifices. So the idea again is like, if you're complaining about the neighborhood, why not go live out in the country and commute to work, or go, do like something else? Like, the idea is that people don't want to move out of an area for whatever freaking reason. Like, some people like the city, some people like that type of life. But like, when you think about it, and Steve, you could probably attest to this, like, you're going to get more bang for your buck, depending on where you live in. So if you want to go live in a city,
country?
if you want to go live in New York City and you want to get your studio apartment for freaking $2,500 a month, or go pay $2,500 a month, in the middle of
half a mansion.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, sometimes I wonder about that. It's like, if you're in a bad area and you're wondering, like, go move outside of that bad area and you probably get more bang for your buck.
I think some people do, but it comes back to fear. It's like, fear and not necessarily finance, because it's realistically,
it's
cheaper. Brad,
I don't think people want to live there, though. I mean, people don't. Not as many. That's why there's less houses. I mean, obviously, when you're in the city, things are tighter, and you're in a small suburb, or so on and so forth. As opposed to the further you get out in the country, the more you got each house has a couple acres or something.
Right, but it's part of like an exploration thing too. That this is my opinion, but it's like, oh well, that's an untrodden territory. We know we're kind of in a community here where I know this little black, thing, this little black business. Well, I'm serious. Like, Sean, you remember that place we used to go to close to Kellen's house where the guy had breakfast, and it was him and like either his wife or his sister. Like, it's gonna be about 45 minutes. He used to like try to talk you out of getting breakfast. You remember that?
Who, me?
No,
you don't remember that? It was a breakfast spot close to Kellen's house. I know you've been there, but
wait, you're talking about down in the city?
It was in Canton area.
Yeah. I think I know the restaurant you're talking about.
It was on a corner street.
What was the park over there? He lived right across from the park.
Oh man, what was the park? I don't even know.
I hope not Drew Hill.
But the point I'm getting at is like, my point is, it's a community thing. You know what I mean? It was clearly an established community. Yeah, you had to go a street or two over, but like everybody knew everybody on that street, And I think to Mike's point is, okay, everybody here is good. It's just this one out of X amount of people mess it up for everybody that makes this area bad.
It could be a whole family, like a family of people. Like,
it's like Tebow and Friday. Like, everybody avoid Tebow. Like, he's coming down. Debo, I always mess it up. I said that last time. Tebow.
I was like,
Tim Tebow's messing it up for everybody.
Tebow's coming fucking it up.
Yeah, Debo's messing it up for everybody. Like, Craig, get away from Tebow. Or I said it again. Debo. So you said country stuff and country living though, and I really want to touch on this.
Go ahead.
Is that idea, and you talk to anybody in the country and they hear the term white privilege. I'm sorry, I had to bring it up.
I know you were gonna
and I tried to segue it multiple times, but I feel like every time I have any guest on, if Mike ever gets us a black person on the show, I'll ask them the same question. But it's like, what's because we're on a phone call right now,
oh no, I'm gonna get them. I'm gonna get their ass now.
Point being is everybody's this is a very popular word that's thrown around, especially among, I would say, left activists and like the conscious guy always bring up, oh man, he doesn't shut up about white privilege. It's like,
consciously, yeah.
That term doesn't fly in rural area. No. Like he said Idaho earlier, and I was going to bring it up then, but I'm throwing the Hail Mary now to bring it up now because it's assumed that somehow it's different. Like, it's different out here. If you're white, you're white. Like, there is no majority and minority, and I could see why you could use that term in the city or in everybody knows there's pockets. Look at what's it?
I have no idea.
Georgia.
Atlanta,
Georgia.
Yeah.
Chicago. You got pockets of where black people just stay in the city. It's a safe zone, if you will, quote unquote. But like, you get out here in the country, like that term just doesn't fly. People are like, no, there's no like I'm not getting a job based on a type of thing. So Sean,
because it's predominantly white, so it's like
right,
why would this guy give me a job because I'm white if it's other white people working there?
I really think that term needs to be changed to majority privilege because like,
well, I mean it's
a true.
Well, it's kind of truth both ways. Cause it's like, all right, white people are the majority in America.
I'm not getting a job at a black barbershop tomorrow.
Unless you can cut your ass off.
And I bet I could, and they'd be like,
wait,
you're just not going to, I could walk
be,
into that place, and it'd be like, record scratches, like, are you lost?
Right
yeah.
And then they'll be like, you want to cut? And they'll get the person who can cut everybody's hair. Like, you can go to Bruce in the back. He'll cut you. Trust me, I've seen it happen. I was getting a haircut, and 3 Indian dudes walked in. Well, no, because it was funny because they just saw a barbershop, and the 3 Indian dudes walked in, and they were like, can you cut? They could, yeah. And the guy was like, and they were like, hold on, and they literally went and got the guy who cut anybody's hair, who was like proficient in cutting hair for everybody, and he was like, oh yeah. He's like, how many? And they were like, all 3, and he was like, oh shit, all right, bet. And they went to the back, and he cut them all. And I saw him doing because I got a couple cuts of Supercut one time.
He just did a lazy number 2, like
no. He did exactly what I asked. He did exactly what I asked. He broke out moose that we didn't know he had. Like all this shit that was like a white barbershop is the norm. He was like, hold on, let me go deep in there. Here goes my white people hair, even though they're not white people. And he was like, I mean, he was combing, he was cutting and combing and doing all that shit. I was actually sitting there like, this motherfucker's good.
He knows what's up.
Oh yeah, and they all like, oh, thank you so much. They gave him a big tip, and he's like, see, it's the benefit of knowing how to cut everybody's hair.
We're gonna do it sometime. I'm gonna go to a black barber.
Oh, I can take you to the one I go to.
All right, let's do it.
Well, see, you don't get your hair's not long. Like if you want it, you'll be good.
Long. Your hair's short.
No, I'm saying your hair's not long, so it's not gonna be hard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was like,
you gotta go do this podcast live from the black barbershop.
Hey, don't tempt me with a good time. Okay?
Well, first of all, they would love that. By the way, my barber, he would die laughing, and he would be like, "So, what did you think was going to happen?"
So there was gonna be a burning cross when I came in here.
But no, that's y'all.
But yeah, exactly. He would say that. So Sean, that what's I gotta get the takeaway from here. Is to your thoughts behind that.
Oh, the white privilege
phrase. How, you see, I mean, you've lived in multiple places, multiple areas.
I gotta prepare myself.
I don't know. I guess in reference to what?
Mike's turning white because his knuckles. He's just squeezing so hard.
No,
I'm just I like how you actually had to squeeze your knuckles and be like, "What's you talking about?" Oh,
yeah. See, I say in reference to what because like I don't really understand the term. It's hard. Like I don't know. I mean, again, a lot of the times if it's brought up, like so who uses the term white privilege?
Usually everybody but white people.
Right. So everybody but
Asian people don't
white
use it either.
people.
I was like,
Asian
people?
Typically, we're probably looking at, I guess, black people saying white privilege.
Well, that's what was focused on here in America. So I was going to say, yeah, black people say white privilege.
So in what sense though? Like I think a lot of the times, well, and I think a lot of the times it gets looked at as the the 1%ers we're talking about, like people who make all this money and have had all this fortune and so on and so forth. It's like, I mean, I don't know. I look at like, all right, we got on this call here, we've got 2 white guys and a black guy.
Reverse Oreo.
And reverse Oreo. And I don't,
white chocolate.
And I can't say that. I mean, again, unfortunately, Mike, I don't know much of your background or history, but I can't say that any one of us is in it. I can't say that any one of us is in much of a better or different position because of our privilege or our skin. Yeah. So like, I don't know exactly what we're speaking of when we say privilege.
So the point is like the benefit of the doubt, right?
Well, that's what I said. Hold on, don't be taking my say, goddammit. That's what I said.
Well, and that's why I said this earlier about like the 3. Okay, so the chief police and there was 3 cops, right? And the guy who was tenured expected to get the job.
Yeah.
Right? He took the test, blah, blah, blah. But realistically, he finished 3rd last. But he was, he's there the longest, this, that, and the other. So in his mind, there was no reason he shouldn't have gotten that job. Could you imagine if that guy would have been black, what would have happened? Not,
No, I know what you're talking about.
He would have blamed the whole thing on a race thing, and then that's a quote unquote state of white privilege. Like, oh, you just didn't give it to me because of the color of my skin, or good old boys club, or now all of a sudden this thing is used against me.
To that point though, if I'm putting myself in where I think that would go, right? Mm-hmm. If there's three guys up for the job and then one of them's black, I'm gonna probably say 70% of the time that black guy's getting a job.
See, that's what. See,
you think so? If you're put up against a black guy, you think he's going to beat you?
Yeah. If we're talking about, again, now you're saying that this guy was the worst, or of the three options or whatnot. But let's say it's me versus Mike, and we have relatively equal credentials, mm-hmm. right? I mean, what's going to be the defining?
Well, it depends. It depends on the affirmative action quota. Have they met it already?
Yeah, it's true.
Because if not, they're going to look at me. If so, you might get a good shot.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, because again, that's where I look at the the white privilege aspect of it is in that case, in an equal battle, I don't think I'm winning it. Just like if they're picking somebody to go to college in an equal battle. The white person's not going to win that one.
So to that point, though, and I'm going to ask you this, is and we've talked about this in the past, is if you, hiring somebody who is black, it's like, it's kind of like the same thing if you're a guy and you hire a woman, you get afraid that, if something goes wrong, she's going to pull the Me Too movement on you. It's like, oh, he touched me bad. And you're like, I wasn't even there. I called in sick that day. Or if the person is black and, they didn't do something that they clearly was defined in their job, you get afraid that they're going to pull the race card on you and be like, oh, it's because I'm black. And then they're going to open an HR case, and so you're like, dude, you're just like, I don't even want to deal with it. So I'm just going to pass, and I'm going to take the white guy because I'm afraid this guy's going to ruin my life over it.
And again, we're talking, that's why I asked, what are we talking about when we say white privilege? Because there's a lot of different ways to look at it, right? Now, if we go back to police brutality or this and that, there are things that I can't speak on, right? So I don't know what it's like to be a black man in America. So I don't know, if I'm getting pulled over versus a black guy getting pulled over in the same situation. So so to the point I just made, a white guy and a black guy, pretty equal credentials, up for a job, right? Who do I think gets it? The black guy. Now a white guy and a black guy get pulled over, equal situations. Who do I think is going to have an easier time at getting pulled over? The white guy. The white guy.
Yeah.
So that's why when you say white privilege, I mean, and that's going off of my quote unquote experience, but I've never experienced being a black man pulled over, let's say, so I can't say that I go off of what I know or what we've seen or heard in the media, right? And this and that, so to that point, when we say white privilege, I think it depends on how you look at it. And I don't see it really personally as being as big of a thing as maybe it gets made out to be. But again, when you talk about police brutality or something of that sort, it's not fair. I can't speak on something like that. I don't know.
I'll tell you, the funny thing about it is, I won't say finally, but I realized a while ago, because I used to say, oh, white privilege when I was young, and I met with my I would say relatives and my dad, whatever. I was like, they were talking about, which was just an all-encompassing, no matter what, the white man is getting this and they're getting money and they're getting this and blah blah blah, because they come from a different time. I mean, they come from a time
right.
I tell Steve all the time, exaggerations now, because they're exaggerations.
Reality then.
100%.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's it's like, so when people are like, I don't understand why they say that. Like, well, 40, 50 years ago, that shit was true as fuck.
Very true. Yes.
So, but now it's like I have kind of, I've kind of, I won't say walked back, but I've thought about it, especially after talking with people like Steve and just white people in general, where it's like, because they all say the same thing. They're like, I worked my ass off and blah blah. I'm like, well, I don't think we meant that. And it's like, but I was like, it's perceived that you basically wake up white one day and you're like, all right, you know what? I'm tired of doing this sports. So let me go get my mansion and my well-paying job and my wife and my kids and, get my yacht house, my yacht.
Said
and
by
my
Kanye
beach
West.
house. Exactly.
So to this point, and not to cut you off, but to the point is that a lot of the times when I hear the white privilege tossed around, I have the belief that it has to do with this 1% of people that hold the wealth, and they're that doesn't exist in Black America. It only exists in white America and a very small percent of white America. So we talk about old money. That old money typically is tossed around by white people and a certain select number, of families. So you look at the majority of white Black Americans in general. I don't think that anybody's the upper hand. Like, it's not like, any of the three of us, and again, not that I know everybody's background, but any of the three of us are like, oh yeah, I come from money and I'm inheriting this, that, and the other thing. It's like whatever right?
I'd be
anything,
an
asshole. But I think that it's safe to say we probably all know at least one person who you're like, well, I know there's some money that you've had, or there's been a little bit.
Yeah. I was going to say
silver spoon, but there's at least a bronze spoon,
Exactly.
feeding your mouth throughout. You know what I'm saying? So there's people out there, but again, I think that we look at that because we look at some of these 1%ers who all tend to be the white guy or what have you. And
well, that's where the media shit comes from, because it's like I forgot exactly who said it, but they were like, if you can make the lowest, poorest white man believe that he's better than even the best black man out there, you can always pick his pockets, because he'll always believe you. So he'll be hating this particular person and trying to do everything he can to make them not good while himself. Because I was like, in all, race one is a made up concept. It's not even a real thing. It was just made up so people could describe, like, well, I don't know you and you look different, so
it's your fault.
Black. Yeah. I was like, well, no, I'm saying just like, you're black, you're blah blah. But I was like, and I tell Steve, I say, really, the biggest thing is class. Like, that's how do you keep people from worrying, from not noticing that the pay gap from employee to the CEO has significantly tripled and jumped over the last 50 years. That the middle class has been stagnant or is disappearing. It's like, well, what you do? Well, you're white, he's black. Let's talk about that. Hey, did you know that this, and this black guy? And then they're like, hey, did you know that black people are complaining and blah, blah? And now me and Steve fighting. But we're not, it's like, but what we should be doing is focusing on making it, I say fair for everybody. I don't mean giving money. I mean, like, hey, did you know that these guys, like, they don't pay taxes, they fucking find all the loopholes, they got all this craziness going on. But if I'm too busy arguing with you two, I assume he's white, correct?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I just want to make sure that I don't want the asshole moment where David Webb was like, okay, this guy's been black the whole time. It's like, but
I didn't know.
But I'm just saying, so like, I'm too busy arguing over here telling you guys kind of like an antiquated thing where I'm like, you guys get everything. And then you guys are like, well, you guys are getting everything and you guys blah, blah. And I'm like, well, you don't have to work for it. If we're too busy fighting over here, we can't actually fight the real issue or problems, because the race is such a big thing. But again, it's made up. Yeah. But I told Steve a while ago, I was like, my only thing with white privilege is the benefit of the doubt. And you can't call it majority privilege, but again, unfortunately, the majority is white. So,
well, I think if you went to somewhere else, if I was a white guy who went down the wrong street in Atlanta, and I don't want to say that in a bad way, but to that point where the barbershop is, and I got pulled over by a black cop in a black neighborhood, it'd be like, what you doing here?
They're gonna think
I'm not buying drugs.
Exactly.
See, I'm here to get some H, get some heroin. They're gonna know. They're gonna search my car real quick.
Oh yeah, they're gonna definitely take you out of black.
And the same thing's gonna happen on the flip side in a white suburb. They're like, what you doing here? You know what I mean?
A lot of the times, let's keep in mind too that yes, I think what white people get, will get the benefit of the doubt, but a lot of the time it's gonna be about your presentation. So I mean about the way you present yourself. So let's think about like a biker gang. Like,
no, you made this same exact point with the skinhead, and it was a very good point. He made this point.
Like the skinhead or the biker. Like in my mind, when I think of a biker, right, I think of the white guy. I think of the white guy, bigger guy, maybe with some ripped up and he's got the vest on and stuff like that. I'm not going to
criminal,
go.
actually.
All right.
Yes.
Right. And honestly, for all I know, the guy could be a nice guy, but I'm probably staying my distance away. Because
Exactly.
in my head, I'm just like, the way this guy's presenting himself doesn't look like he's
The leather
a guy
vest,
who,
all
you
this
know,
shit.
wants to just have
And he
a
could
nice
be a weekend
conversation.
warrior.
Right.
Exactly. Most of them are.
So
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you
98%.
keep that,
No
you
Hell's
gotta keep that in
Angel.
mind with anything. It goes on with anything. Like when you're, if you're getting approached by a cop or anything like that, everything's all about how you're presenting yourself. So like
I agree.
that guy, like if I'm walking down the street and that guy's on, I might cross the street, dude. I mean, I'm honestly
crossing
might be
the street
like,
for sure.
Oh,
if
I'm
I see
crossing the street too. I'm like,
Well, we know you are.
I was like, I'm not getting curb stopped today.
Yeah. If I see
He's got a
some dude with
swastika tattooed on the forehead.
Yeah.
Like,
I am hitting the road.
but
getting
here's the
out of
thing. If I'm in goddamn Baltimore and I'm going down the alley and I see a group of black kids, or I don't say black kids, but black, whatever you want to call them, and I don't know them.
Little yum-yums.
Little yo-yos. I was like, I don't know them. Like, you know what? I probably don't need to be down this alley anymore. Let me go walk back the way I came. And I'm going to make it obvious. It's like, but now I will tell you, I will try and like, it will be in my head like, should I keep walking? Should I go back?
Right.
Should I keep walking?
Right.
Now on the sidewalk, I'm like, all right, there's people. I'll go around them. I'll go around them on the sidewalk, but I'm not going through.
Right.
I'm not going through. I'm going around.
And, but again, like like if you take the color out of it, red or black or white, and we just talk about, and we just talk about a group of people. Again, I'm talking about it's about the presentation, right? So it's about how you present yourself. So if you take the color out of it, and we said, all right, there's a group of people, you don't know whether they're black or white. If it's a group of people and they're like well dressed, they're wearing suits or whatever have you.
Yeah, they could.
Whether it's black or white, you're probably like, I'm just gonna walk right past these people.
Exactly.
Okay, if it's a group, again, take the color out of it, black or white. If they're wearing biker gang stuff or something of the sort, you're like, I'm walking around. Doesn't matter what the color is. It's presentation of how you look. So like, as long as you present yourself okay. And if somebody's coming by, you're like, hey, how you doing, sir? Like, you're going to feel better about yourself.
That's actually how I find out I find out either whether you're a threat or an asshole, either one. Because I always, like, especially if I look at you, like if I look at you and we connect eyes, I'm going to give you a head nod. I'm going, how you doing? And if you don't say anything back and you look at me, I'm like, all right, this might be a potential serial killer or it might be a potential robber.
Right.
I was like, I don't trust this motherfucker. Like, or just an asshole. But either way, I don't trust this motherfucker immediately because I made eye contact and, I went out of my way to say something. But that's me personally. It's like, because that's how I've surveyed threats in my life. And it's worked out immaculately. I'm gonna tell you, because there's been a lot of times where the people who have done things to other people actually said hello to me before they went and fucked up other people. I'm like, whew, good thing I said something.
Right.
It's like, but I was gonna say, what you're saying makes total sense. It's like so I think and me and Steve talked about this. I was like, the biggest issue, like if it comes to race, if we're talking about race, the biggest issue is the freedom part, like the equality part, has been such a short time that we actually, unfortunately needs more time. It's like, when we get 200 years, like America has had it, 200 years of the equality, like, I don't want to hear, I mean, obviously I'm going to be dead. But I was like, nobody I know who would think like me would want to hear somebody talking about that. Like, if we're, years and years removed, but we're like I told Steve, I was like, really, we're mid to late 70s of like equality.
And again, I think one of the things that people need to realize again is it's not just white and black, right? When I talk about the 1%ers, we're talking about these people, old heads, old money. You know what I'm saying?
I got something to say to that.
So like if I take me personally, I am only third generation. I mean, my grandparents on both sides came off the boat. So that means when they came over, they had nothing. When we talk about three generations, that's not that long ago.
Yeah,
so,
it's assumed.
So you can't assume that, it's a white privilege or you were given everything. So 3 generations ago, my parents were coming over with nothing. So that's not that long ago.
You definitely didn't own any slaves either.
Right. Well, so then when you talk about, again, Yeah, I don't know that. I don't know what Grandma was doing.
Grandma had
was
one young slave, right?
Yeah.
Thomas Jefferson.
Exactly.
But like, so
concubine.
you look at that, like, again, a lot of the time it's talk of like, the old English folk who came over and took over the land, and then they got all the wealth, and they kept it going through the family throughout the years. Yeah. And
we've talked about that too, about I was like, even the 40 acres and a mule, which I don't know if you heard.
Right.
Steve.
Right.
Oh, I was like, well, that was actually a real thing that got turned down. And it's funny because Steve did all this research not too long ago.
So 40 acres and a mule, and
west?
I mentioned this before in a podcast, and then I did some research when it never came really up again. But like the idea was that, we talked about 40 acres and a mule, that it was, you had mentioned actually something about it being given to Confederate soldiers, but what it was,
Confederate, but like just if you fought,
right? If you fought. So what it really was it was basically
slaves.
And this is the guy always. It's not Frederick. Maybe it was Frederick Douglass. It was like there was another guy, Hamilton or something. Not Hamilton. Started with an H, and I got it written down. But it basically got them all together. And was like, hey, what is going to help the black community thrive? And he's like, really. We need to be left alone because we realize there is going to be a lot of hatred towards us after this. He's like, okay, what do you need? He's like, 40 acres and a mule. And like everybody, so that's where the term came from. It's like, basically we need some land and we need to be left alone to do our own thing.
Yeah.
So the idea was, okay, and it was, I want to say it was along the coast in the Carolina area, and they're like, okay, we're going to take all this land from slave owners and piece it out, and it's going to be divvied up to, kind of like a land grab, but for black people. It's going to be like, all right, this is your spot. And do your thing. We're not going to mess with you. And Lincoln died before that was passed, and then that's why it was recanted on. But it was like a full-blown bill. Things were in the works, and it was supposed to happen, and Lincoln was shot. So then it was backpedaled. It never happened. But to that point of what you said about, like, it sucks that because of the color of your skin being white, you're guilty by association. To your point, 3 generations over, you didn't have an inherited wealth thing. Like, and I could definitely say to, like, okay, if you could trace the lineage of, and this could kind of come into like reparations topic, is like, okay, if you could trace your wealth lineage back to slavery, that's one thing. You're not you're not tracing Jeff Bezos's wealth back to slavery. Yeah. It started in his mom's garage. You know what I mean?
I thought it was his shit. I didn't know it was
well, it might have been. It could have been his. Could have been mom's. But the same thing happened with Steve Jobs. You know what I mean? And the point is, the idea behind generational wealth is literally you were born into it. And there's a lot of self-made white people today and black people that were not born into that wealth, and they've both made it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's required. When you talk about class separation and that the top 1%, even though Jeff Bezos is the richest person basically in the world, he technically, class-wise, is not considered in the top 1% because of you have to be inherently wealthy.
I got you.
You have to inherit wealth to be considered in this certain class, like a Rockefeller.
I'm gonna tell you right now, that motherfucker's in the 1%. That dude.
Income-wise, yes. Class-wise, technically not.
He's new.
Exactly.
New.
Now, 3 generations from now, if Bezos is still a thing, he could start a lineage, but he's not. Stuff's not named after him like there is Rockefeller, and the streets, and it's not many people, so that's just the the most popular one.
Exactly.
Right.
But the point is, that's what controls the real America and the real money, because they own most of the economy, and it's diversified, so you can't, you can trace it, but you know what I'm saying? It's not recognized.
Yeah, that's what the power and
right.
And again, like this, to go back full circle with the question of white privilege, I think again it gets lost in certain things because I just because of the color of your skin, I don't think a lot of people are looking at the fact that there's a lot of new white people here. When I say new white people, within 100 years,
that's
like
true.
The family has only been here for 100 years, and I mean, there's a lot that aren't, but I'm saying again, I look at my family is within the last 100 years of America. So I, like, I don't, we don't have anything. There's nothing, there's not land that we have passed down that we have. Like, I have 2 houses. My parents have 1 house. Mm-hmm. We don't have 2 houses. And my brother owns the house because my parents couldn't afford it. Right. So like, like there's things that get overlooked. I mean, I think that there's a lot of that stuff that, when I hear white privilege, I don't know what it means other than I could only attest. Well, I can't even attest to it, but I could take your word for it that if you and I get pulled over in a similar situation, that it's going to be a little bit scarier for you than it is for me.
And that's benefit of the doubt.
Well, you know what's funny? I would say that right there. That's like, but to kind of go to what you're saying is, and I asked Steve, I've actually asked a lot of white people about this.
My point is, white people are still very scared of the cops.
Oh no, but I was gonna say this. Yes. This is like I guess a little side thing. I was like, I never actually met too many white people who were told exactly how I was told about how to interact with the cops. Unless you were like a cop's son or nephew or some shit like that. It's like, but what I'm saying is because I've known almost every black person I've ever met has been told what to do with the cops because of the fear of them killing you or arresting you or something like that. Now, again, it doesn't have to be truthful, but I just know, like, put it this way, if I go 50 black people to the 50 white people I've known, it's like almost all those black people have been told, hey, by the way, if you get pulled over by the cops, keep your hands visible. Say, right. Yes, sir, no, sir, blah, blah, blah. Now, that doesn't mean everybody does it, because, I mean, that's like you could, if you have 3 kids and you teach them all the same thing, you're going to get 3 different results. 2 of them might listen, but it's going to be 1 who doesn't. You know what I mean? And that's right. Just people. I was like, that's always one thing I wondered. I was like, because I used to think that was white privilege. Because I'm like,
well, and see, that's kind of hilarious because I guarantee Sean feels the same way. It's weird that I get why you say that, but it's like, to us, that was taught to us as common sense. Like, hey, this guy's a cop. He's got the gun. 10 and 2. That's on your lap before he gets there. You hand it to him. That was like a conversation that was like, while you're on your learner's permit, you get pulled over and the cops are like, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm saying the same thing, learner's permit, but I'm saying this is like a repeat conversation. Where
no, and I understand that, but it's acted like
it always ends. It's because you're black,
right? And it's acted like point you're saying is because you're black, and to us it's told no, he's got a gun, like he's the authority. You respect. You do this. You do this. You know what I mean? The lights, have the dimmer light on, have the hands on the wheel, have the stuff ready there before he even gets to the car. Because, look, this guy might kill you. It was never.
I was taught, like, I was just going to say, like, I remember being taught the same thing. It's hands on top of the wheel, like, where they
visible.
See your hands. Like, so I'd have the window rolled down by the time he got there, hands on top of the wheel. And then when he approached and asked for license or registration, I would say, my registration is in my glove compartment. Is it okay if I reach over and get it? That's what I was taught, so he gives me okay, so he knows I'm going to reach, and then you go do it. But, like, I understand that probably not a lot of people necessarily taught that way or this and that. And I could understand, again, it being different for a white person versus a black person.
As can I, yes.
Well, no, I said it wasn't necessarily not. I just noticed that it was like, because I used to say it. I'd be like, yeah, when your dad or your mom or something tells you how to act, and they'd be like, no, they never did. I mean, they were like, I don't act crazy, but they're like, no, nobody ever had that real conversation with me. I was like,
really?
What? And I Mike, the other one,
and Mike.
A lot of those little white people that we knew there. I mean, they were cool people. I'm saying it just because they were white.
Yeah, he wasn't a bad guy.
I was like,
he was a little off, but anyway, keep going.
I was like, but I've met a lot. Now, that doesn't mean all of them. You know what I mean? I have met people who are like, yeah, they were like, well, usually it came because, like, somebody was a cop in their family. They're like, yeah, my uncle told me this, that, and that because this could be perceived this way, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And I was like, really? Because I was like, these people that I'm talking to weren't cops. And they were just like, no, my mom told me, like, my grandma told me, my daddy told me, my granddad told me. Like, like, and it literally had to do with being black. It wasn't the sense. It was like, It was.
But again, to your going back to your point before. I mean, like, you don't have to go back, far to when it was not a good time for black people in America. I mean,
No, I know. Give me a sec. Steve's gonna talk to you real quick.
Yeah, he's got to take a phone call. But to that point, though, it's like, yeah, like it was a. He's like, don't you see where I'm going? It was like a talk down thing or a handed down thing. It's like.
Yeah, so
understood.
Again, if you go back to the 1950s, like, we kind of joked before about how, like, they say, oh, racism the worst it's ever been. I mean, no, back in like the 1950s and stuff like that, things were real bad.
Right.
So, like, if they were taught a certain way and it's been passed out, I don't think it's as bad today, but we also do have to look at the media again. So there probably is the perceived thing again that if you're black in America, you're also probably taught, you get the feeling at least that, like, the cops are the bad guys.
Right.
And it's all around. It's the way that everybody's thinking, right? So now if a cop thinks that, a black guy is a bad guy, or if a black guy thinks a cop is a bad guy, because right now, when you look on the media, that's how they're showing one way or the other, depending on what channel you're watching.
Agreed.
And it shouldn't be that way. And because of that, the interactions, the senses are heightened. Everybody's on like this alert and like, hey, I know I don't have to do this. You're doing this because it's all over the place. It shouldn't be that way.
Right.
And people just need to respect each other. Like, but again, because of what's out there and what's being seen, it's like the cop pulls up to a car in the middle of the night, and if it's a black guy, and who knows, he starts talking back to him right off the bat. He's not going to feel safe all of a sudden because of everything that he sees.
Right. 100%. Yes. He's setting himself up for failure.
And vice versa, if the black guy is trying to follow the rules and hand on top of the wheel, and the cop just comes out and is very rude or being an asshole to him,
D-bag.
Then he's not going to feel comfortable, because if the cop's like, get out of the car, then he's like, why is the cop asking me to get out of the car? I was just speeding. Like, right, you know what I'm saying? So then all of a sudden he's like, well, this isn't protocol and I don't feel safe now. So again, it goes both ways, and it's something that I can't speak to. I've had limited interactions with cops. If I never have one again, I would, that would be a win. You hope you don't want to get pulled over. It's a scary situation. You don't want to be in a bad position where you're having an interaction with the cop. So, I mean, that's the way I feel. Once again, it's to me, it's you want to obey the law when you're dealing with the cop. But, I wouldn't want to have the arguments any which way.
Yeah, and to that point, that's why I've kind of said, like, look, I've had multiple interactions with the cops and have been treated a certain way if I didn't, do the right thing or this, that, and the other. So it's like, that's why it's always kind of difficult for people who have had something bad happen to them and knew that it happened to them because of their action, not because of the color of skin. And I can't. That's very hard, because it's like, look, I haven't been in a situation where I've been judged or, Point being is, did the crime, did the time. Like, whatever
right.
I did, I look back now and I'm like, yeah, I deserve that. You know what I mean? It wasn't like,
right.
Oh, well, it happened because of this or happened because of that. I'm like, yeah, I got everything I deserved. It happened to me. It wasn't because of, a race thing or this, that, and the other, which, I'm watching this.
That's what I noticed about white people. Go ahead.
Yeah. Mike's back. I'm watching this.
All right, change the subject. He's back.
Yeah. Mike's got me watching this show, Lovecraft Country, right?
Are you watching it?
Oh, yeah, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Turn out that I can see where it's going, too, because it's totally about, like, the ultimate victim show, because it's like the white lady just came out the skin of the white man, and I'm like, oh, I see. It's all about being a white man now, huh? Because, like, the black lady is now a white woman, and she's running around.
Okay,
being crazy.
He's definitely not. There,
Are you watching the same show?
Yes.
No. He's
We
right.
can't go down this rabbit hole.
But
my point is
basically like they're using potions and like witchcraft to like be other people, but the way they do it is like really gory.
It's very gory and it's very crazy and it's kind of cool.
It looks crazy. I know it is. That's why I was like, Steve, you'll like it.
It's like Stranger Things meets.
Nah, I don't even know if it's Stranger Things.
Oh, for a second it is. It's like one episode of Stranger Things with all the monsters in the beginning. It's like, what are these things? It's Stranger Things. Like, nope, not at all. And it turns into like, it's Dracula. It's like, nope, not at all.
If you notice, it's actually like different. Each little
it's like a different episode of Black Mirror, but yet with racism somehow. It's like,
well, it's still set in the 50s and 60s.
Point being is like you get the real idea of what it was like only a short few years ago, and unfortunately that's
we're talking it's 60s, like 50s and 60s,
50s, 60s,
right?
And that's the guys come back from, I think
it's Vietnam? A lot in the it was World War II, but then they'll show like 54, and then like they'll keep changing the date at the beginning of the episode, so it's like jumping all around, so it's like over a span of time. But the point is like, this is a real thing. So to Mike's point, it's not that far disconnected to say, hey, this wasn't that far time, long ago.
And that's why I tell Steve, I was like, when I hear white people go, oh my God, this is such an exaggeration, this I'm like, well, hey guys, you got to remember, we're not like 100, we're not even 100 years away from horribleness. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm not even talking about slavery. We're just talking about segregation, Jim Crow, and the things that were allowed to happen during that period of time. Because I think redlining was redlining during the time or more like towards the end of that time, because I think
so you had what was it, 1964 or 1965 Civil Rights Act,
Civil Rights Act,
and then after 64. That you had the Post Fair Housing Act. So then basically what happened was military people would come back, and the idea was you weren't allowed in this area, so you weren't given a loan or this, that, and the other. And the big premise was like, okay, they had an income, they had this, they had all the things to come forward, but you weren't the right skin color. So
exactly,
which it again, I'm back to that book that I'm reading. It kind of like it. What I hate the most is how, again, it's kind of back to the ACAB thing. Like one thing happened in an area, it's painted as the entire country. Like, okay, this one cop, did a stupid thing here, George Floyd, and it painted the entire country.
I could tell you the reason why for that, and I'll say it with your cop buddy. I was like, I know, and again, he's an active, and it sounds like he's a decent guy.
Oh, he's an awesome guy. You met him. I mean,
I didn't mean it for that long. I didn't. Really
I know, but my point is like,
I'm saying that because I'm like, the reason being is because of those police unions that do bad. Because, like, and I found out it is hard to get somebody fired. Like when you're a cop, like you would think, oh man, this, like some cops will see something and they'll say something. And it's literally snitches get stitches. That's why if you can ask a lot of people in general, they'll tell you the cops are one of the biggest gangs in America because of that blue wall bullshit. And it's like, and a lot of people believe
depends
it.
Where.
And I mean, that probably is true. I was like, but at the same time, it's one of those situations where it's like, well, why is this cop who has 10 complaints or whatever and no suspensions, no disciplinary actions, and then finally he went overboard and did something that's fucking us all now. It's like, but why was he able to still be a cop? Because that's like getting written up 3 times that passing off.
Think about it. You know why?
No.
Politics. Like the amount of time.
That's like, where the police union comes in.
Right. But who has to like if you have a sheriff in that area, you're focused on reappointment. If you're a senator or a governor, you're focused on the next election. Mm-hmm. There's so many things that come across your desk that you're like, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Unfortunately,
well, no,
that's the reality of it. Like, you know what I mean? You're like,
that,
hey, I'm focused on my next term. I don't really care what this guy did.
But the problem is, and again, this goes to people who create what am I trying to say? Atmosphere,
right?
And because you've seen it where like a cop will tell. And then the other cops won't have their back no more. The other cops will flip on them. And this happened. I remember there was this lady who she told on an officer. She stopped an officer from beating a suspect who was handcuffed, whatever. Like they got him, and he was still beating on him. She intervened. He started beating on her, like started fucking her up a little bit, right? And then so when she gets done, she immediately goes to wherever she's supposed to. The higher ups, everything. It gets back to him that she snitched on him. He's still working there. Now all of a sudden they're penalizing her for every little thing she does. The other cops don't want to work with her because of this. It was like, and she had situations. She said she had a situation where it was like a shootout, and she couldn't get back up.
Well, like to the point,
and she ultimately ended up getting fired. You know,
yeah, we've all seen 21 Bridges. Okay.
No, actually,
I'm just messing. It's a great movie.
But that's what I'm saying. That type of stuff happens. So what does that do? It's the same thing with no snitching. I know you can't protect me. I'm not telling you shit.
Right.
But the same thing is like the other. It's like, but with the cops, it's like, okay, so when the cops have the same mindset as the mafia and the little gangs in the goddamn area, what do? And now I was going to say that was actually one of my biggest things about policing. It's like everybody goes, oh, well, you know, we got to give them a break and they're only human. I'm like, but you have way too much that you can do. That it's like you're not just like we're normal people. I'm like, you are a normal person, technically speaking, but as an officer, you are not a normal person. It's like you are, and unfortunately, you're held to a higher standard. I get it. It sucks. Nobody really wants that. Like,
well, to your point, though, that's why the Minnesota police chief resigned. You know what I mean? And that was a black lady.
Something else, but,
no, because and it is talk to the friend about. It's like, listen, ultimately the signs are there. You've been warned. That's up to you as a leader to get rid of that person. Not only is she doing the wrong by not getting rid of him, sounds like windshield wipers.
Oh, is that what that is? Okay.
Not only is she doing the wrong thing not getting rid of him, she's doing the wrong thing by not paying attention. She's the wrong skin color for the situation. But she was black. He was a white cop.
Black? Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was black. And to his point, it's like, listen, you know all the telltale signs before it comes there. And he went back to talking about the reason, if you pull the gun and point, okay, you have to file now a boatload of paperwork. That's why they make it so you don't want to point your gun because now you got to file paperwork. They make it so once you pull that taser, you have to file paperwork because they don't want you to pull the taser.
It's crazy. I would rather you pull the taser.
Then, well, again, pointing. So then it goes back to you got to file this paperwork because now you're going to get a psych evaluation. They're gonna be like, and they say, he says too, it's like, look, the guys who aren't going to make it typically weed themselves out very quickly. And they do for how they act with the weapon. Like, that guy is just an asshole because first thing he wants to do, point the gun at him. And you're like, nope, ain't gonna make it. We gotta get rid of him. You gotta go. Look, 2 weeks on the job, you pointed a gun at somebody. What happened? Oh, it was a traffic stop and the guy was black. Yeah, you're gone. You know what I mean? Or,
what happened? Remember, I tell you that's what happened with the guys around him who were getting in charge. Like, I don't think there was one that was longer than a year.
Right, but to his point is like, look, if that happens, or the taser, you pull the taser out. Like, what? That guy, he's just not the right fit. He's like, you're going to know through interviews and the process. The process is meant to weed these people out because of all of the signs that are going to lead up to this. What about
that guy? Because he's not the only one.
Again, my point goes back. Then it's the Chiefs' problem. Then you got to be talking to your mayor, and you got to be talking to the people who are in charge of the chief police to get him out because it's his job to chief the police. He's the chief of the tribe of the police. So it's, hey, you suck. You got to go. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then that's why if you're a good chief of police, you're not going to hire Dickie Dickinson to come over and wave his taser around because he just got kicked out of the next county over. No, I don't want none of that juju over here. You know what I mean? Let's keep that bad stuff away. And that's the whole point he's getting back to is like part of it has to do with the leader, and the other part has to do with just the system is meant to weed itself out by all these checks and balances. Like, hey, you pulled the taser. Why? What happened? This is a scenario. They review the scenario and they say, hey, you didn't need to do that. There's a warning, strike one, or that type of thing. You know what I mean?
I've seen cops get literal time in prison for lying on the paperwork than more the actions that they did.
Oh, it's a big deal.
They were like, yeah, he stumped somebody. They were like, he stumped somebody's face in. But this motherfucker lied on paper about it. And they were like, we're gonna give him 15 years. Like, God damn, that's misdemeanor assault. But this paperwork though, you know how much paperwork we do? And it's like, God damn. But I'm telling you, I've watched situations where that's happened.
That's the strict area where they're like, hey,
it goes with what you're saying.
Don't you mess up protocol.
Yeah, it's like you pull the taser, you gotta. I was like, shit, I didn't know it was that much paperwork.
I didn't know either.
I know when you arrest somebody, it's a lot of paperwork. or a good amount at least.
I didn't even know if you pulled a gun on somebody, it was a boatload of paperwork. But he's like, yeah, that's why you can pull it, but if you point it, he's like,
Remember that time I told you that cop
pulled.
Well, he pulled it. Oh God, that scared the shit.
I had it pulled on me too. That's why I asked the question, because it was the
deserved it.
first thing that came to mind, right? And I did.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny? I used to tell people, I was like, you know the difference between the white and black pullovers? And they're like, what? I was like, usually white people deserve it.
It was funny because you walked away and I said to Mike, or I said to Sean, I was like, look, everything I did and got in trouble for and had an interaction with the cop, I deserved every single one of them. You know what I mean? But all the other ones I got away with that they weren't there for, I'm like, you know what? This one caught up to me.
Yeah, I like I said, if I never had an interaction with the cop again, that would be a good thing. I hate it, man. Listen, I'm not like, if I get, like I said, if I drive past a cop and I could be doing 55 and a 65 and I'm still,
man. Yeah, you're still worried about it. Or the worst is when they get behind you.
You're like, I got to tell it out.
Like, you ever see like a cop like get behind you and you're like,
right.
And I was like, that's what I'm like, click and next.
Yeah.
And like, because if they start following you, be like, God damn it, he's about to pull
me
over.
It's actually when I was working with you, I was on my way to work. I went blowing by a cop. I saw him sitting there, and I just pulled over because I knew, like, the second I passed him, I saw him start to come out, and he didn't even turn the lights on yet, and I pulled over. And he's like, "Why'd you pull over?" I'm like, "I knew." You got me. You got me.
Like, you got
me. He didn't let me off or anything. He gave me a ticket and everything, and I was like, "Okay, yep, you got me."
Remember, I got
tag your rig. Good job, man.
I got my car towed around the corner from where we were because I had that older car and I didn't have because it wouldn't pass inspection, which means I couldn't do registration. So I was like, I rode for like 2 years with the registration being bad, and I swear
that was a hoopty.
Oh yeah, it was, and it's funny because I was going the back way or whatever, and it's through a community. I mean, like a neighborhood, and so I would go down there. And I swear to God, I did it hundreds of times. Not one cop would ever come back that way. This motherfucker had just got done pulling somebody off the main road there.
Were you with me that time I got pulled over in that neighborhood?
No. I wasn't. I wish I would have because I would make fun of you. But I got pulled over, and what happened was I saw the cop ahead, and I could tell like he had his head down. He's probably doing paperwork or whatever, or putting it in. And it's funny. I saw him, and he saw me see him, and I was like, click, going right. And I went into this I thought it was a street, but it was a cul-de-sac, and I was like, fuck.
Now you gotta do a U-turn. He knows what's up.
Well, when I did a U-turn, I waited about 5 minutes. I was like, well, let me wait 10. I was like, he'll probably be done. I shit you not. I went back out and he was gone. I was like, all right, cool. I went gone. And then I went down the next street and this motherfucker was sitting right there waiting on me. And I was like, and the only reason I know is because he told me. Because then he was like, grip up. I was like, bitch. Because I was like, well, there goes my car. And he pulled me over. And he was like, so why'd you turn down that street? And I wasn't going to lie and say, I was visiting somebody. And I put it down. I was like, you already got me. I was like, because I saw you. and he was like, well, why? He was like, why? Is this some drugs? I was like, no drugs. I was like, it's just bad registration. And I said, I didn't want you to take the car. And he was like, what? He was like, all right. And at first he didn't believe me. And then he went back. He was like, oh, I guess you were telling the truth. He's like, well, I'm sorry, man. He's like, because I stopped you and I ran your plates. I got to take the car down. And I was like,
no, he doesn't have to take the car.
Well, he was nice about it, and I was nice, and I basically was like, you got me.
Yeah.
I said, I've been rolling 2 years strong, you son of a bitch. And he was like, I was like, so what were you? I was like, you don't mind me asking, what were you doing? He was like, I just pulled somebody over. He said, and I was finishing up paperwork, and I just saw you make a quick right turn, which in my mind was a easy left right turn. But he was like, you quickly put on your signal and then made a right turn. You
can't like that slamming on the brakes, quick turn signal, quick anything. They catch that. It's not as
it's funny. Oh. But it wasn't like I was like,
No, I get it, but like
it was just a quick.
It's just enough to catch their attention versus if you just.
But that was the funniest thing that he sat there and waited for my ass. And what's funny is I was like, should I go right or should I go left? If I would have went left,
You've been home free.
Oh
Right.
man, I would have made it, but
You would have been there the next day.
I would exactly. I was like, because I remember, I think I called you to give me a ride or some shit. I was like,
I've been
hey,
sitting here for 27 hours.
Exactly. Oh man,
That's good.
He wasn't an asshole about it. Oh, but
He didn't let you off?
Nah, he didn't let me. I mean, supposedly he said because he ran all my stuff and it came back that he couldn't let me. He was like he would have let me off if like he was like if I just like asked you. He said, but unfortunately, he said I thought you had drugs, so I ran your stuff. He was like, and because I ran you,
because you ran your plates.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, he was like, because it wasn't like he just was like asking the questions.
He's like, oh, it is out. He's like, no, I ran your plates and it came back.
Because he was like, the way, he
so
was
now
like,
it's
the way
on
you
track.
did it. Yeah.
If he didn't, you're right. If he didn't, he'd be like, why'd you let him off?
Exactly, because
that's true.
He was
Good
like,
point.
and then he was like, and the camera's on.
he
was pointing at his chest, and I was like, exactly. I was like, damn. He was like, I'm gonna be honest with you. He's like, you've been so cool with me. He's like, I probably would let you go. He was like, but but I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I just didn't believe you. He's like, you just did it too quickly. I was like, yeah. I was like, I knew registration bad. You was gonna take the car. I didn't want to pay for it.
What'd you say? You just had something you wanted to segue.
Oh, I was gonna say it was segueing into assholes. I was gonna do my little Civil War thing.
I knew you were gonna bring up the Civil War.
Well, all right, Mr. Sean. So
Civil War. I don't know how we got here.
No. I'm not talking about the Civil War from the 1800s or whatever. I'm talking about the new supposed Civil War that's gonna happen if Trump loses. That I've been. That's like what's been going on. So I showed I'm about to say Steve this little excerpt from a Facebook back and forth I had with one of my old coaches I used to love, and he has shown himself to be pretty bigoted, racist, prejudiced, all this stuff, even crazy. But I keep him around because he lets me know what's going on in that world. And it's like I don't really interact with him, but I never muted him. And he always putting up stuff, and I'm like, okay. And so the other day he put up, "Hey, proud Americans, if they try to steal this election, you better let them know that we already." It was a picture of a Dober. What was it? How you say it, Doberman Pinscher? Oh no, a Doberman. Not the Pinscher, the big dog.
Right.
So it's a picture of the dog sitting down, and it says, "Hey, America, do right and choose right," but under it said, "And if not, we're ready." And he put above it, "I'm so ready," or something like that. He's like, "You can't steal this from us." But it's what I've been hearing from a lot of these conservative guys, where it's like, "Ooh, Trump loses, boy. You liberals better be ready for the Civil War." And I had some people show me screenshots where it's like, because I'm originally from Texas, so one of these guys was like, "If Texas turns blue, it's gonna be a purge of liberals, and they better watch out." And da. And I was like, "What the fuck is going on here?" So I put up something, being the asshole I am, because I knew it was gonna get his attention. But I was like, all true American patriots, pay attention. I was like, so if Trump loses, what we gonna do? And it was like, and I was like, "Are you just gonna cry?" And then I went down this whole list, and then at the end I was like, "Now, if you don't respond to what I'm saying, I said you don't have to respond. I understand." I said, "I get it. What you're doing is the same thing that all the liberals did when they said Trump was winning. Everybody was gonna move." I said, "I get it." I said, "So what's happening is you're doing a pre-pouting pity party. I get it." I said, "I get it. Not a problem." I said, "You don't even have to respond." So I ended it right there, and then I put in a PS, because this particular person always says the silent majority will be heard or something like that.
Oh, that's why you hate it. Okay.
Oh, he always does it, and so at the end, I was like, "PS, you can't be the silent majority if you keep talking and complaining out loud." I was like, "It's impossible to be silent anything." I was like, "Majority, sure. Silent, impossible."
Nah. Yeah.
So hold on, I had it ready. Because I was going to show Steve. It was like, but so he responded back, and initially he kind of was like saying a little bit of crazy stuff, but it wasn't too bad. But then it went off the rails, and I basically, it's like, so he put initially like, "We'll see, but he's not going to lose." I'm like, all right, cool. Somebody else responded to him, and I was like, but then just antagonizing, I'm like, but just in case he does. What's going on? What's the outcome? I said, are you going to shoot other Americans because they didn't believe? Are you going to march on the White House and take it by force with old Trumpy? I was like, I'm incredibly curious and actually wish more patriots would have answered. And I was being very much an asshole when I said
Not
patriots.
at all. Not you.
Oh, yeah. And so some other people who were, I know, they were like, the military put him down. He doesn't know, blah, blah. So then he says, sorry, the military, because I was like, the military will just like put you down. And he's like, no, sorry, the military will stand behind the Constitution and will never side with the liberal agenda. I'm like, just because, and I told him, I was like, and so he's like, he said he was part of Red Seed. You ever heard of Red Seed in the 80s? No, right? Okay. He said, I was part of the Red Seed in the 80s.
The Red Sea? S-E-A?
Seed.
Oh,
Seed.
Okay.
Yeah. So he says, so his thing is like, there's more licensed hunters in Texas than our standing U.S. military and active and reserve combined. He said, Bill Clinton tried to create it, don't ask, don't tell, to try to liberalize the military. It didn't work. And so by this time, I'm like, oh, this motherfucker he's going crazy because I didn't ask any of that. And it's like, and so I was like, I don't know what the Red Seed is. Point me in the right direction, blah, blah, blah. I said, but I also put this, I was like, but again, I was like, if this does happen, I was like, tell me again, how many knee surgeries have you had? I was like, how? I was like,
y'all bummed up.
Wait, didn't I tell him? I was like, didn't a couple years you were like worried about losing your life because of some ailment you had? I was like, how many times have you been in the hospital in the last 5 years? And she like halfway broken. So his response I would be in front. I have 8,000, well, he wrote horribly, but he's like, I have 8,000 rounds ready. If these fools think they're going to steal this country, they're highly mistaken. I teach survival skills, something you never knew. There's much you have no idea about. See, this is shit I've been telling. Wait, we're not done. Hold on. Because he gets crazier than this. God damn it. It won't.
That's hard to believe.
It won't fucking go.
Load.
Oh, now it's fucking loaded. It's like,
dude, a lot of these conspiracy theory kind of people have come out of the woodworks, and that's fucking this social media.
I actually know
again.
a QAnon guy. Is it QAnon?
QAnon.
Now this motherfucker's hilarious. The way I met him is hilarious, but he's fucking hilarious. He believes in the cabal, the Illuminati, the pedophile. He believed in Pizzagate. Remember Pizzagate from a few years ago?
Yeah.
He believed in that. Oh, here. Okay, hold on. Here we go. It says we are ready. I said, and I got kind of offended by him saying I didn't know shit. So I was like, really? I was like, I bet I can beat half the people you know up. I was like, and I'm not too bad of a shot. It's like, also, I was like, I've never seen having bullets has never stopped someone from getting shot. I was like, I've just never seen somebody throw a bullet at another bullet that's coming at them and it just stop it, right? So then I also let them know, and I said, also, that's me out of shape. I kick ass. And I said, by the way, actually, I didn't say him. I said, I kick ass. I said, but then I said, you sound like a terrorist, right? Then that's when he got upset. And it says, you make me laugh at the ignorance about what you will face. I want you to, Steve, if you can back this up for me here in a second. It says, you make me laugh about the ignorance you have about what you will face. Socialist area terrorist in this country. I don't know what that meant. And then he says, you as a total only make up 10% of the population. You don't have a prayer. And then we kind of went in on some other people, and he just stopped responding. But this used to be one of my coaches that I loved when I played football in high school.
He went hard in the paint.
Man, did he? And then wait. He actually wrote something else and then deleted it. Yeah. And I was like, you son of a bitch. I want to show everybody. But I got a lot of friends who remember him from high school because he was the coolest coach ever. And for some odd reason, he went full alt-right bullshit back crazy. And it's just funny. It's like, and it all started with Obama. I swear to God, he started switching. When Obama made office, he literally was putting up lies, and his conservative friends were like, hey man, this isn't true. He's like, I don't care, I just dislike Obama so much. I was like, oh shit, never mind. I was like, you win.
Right.
Like, you win, motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, some of this shit you see out there, like conspiracy theorists and people going all in, I don't know where it comes from, because I see some of the same stuff too, where people who you thought were, quote unquote, quote unquote, I'm going to use the word normal.
Exactly.
Like, then like they go all one way, and you're like, what are you saying? You know, like, and I will say this: I see it on both sides, right? You see a
no,
little bit of
it's there. I've just been
the craze on
noticing
both sides,
that.
but you see a lot of the right, like, you know, hardcore stuff like that, and it's like I go back to, once again, this goes back to the question I asked you guys. It's like, if Biden wins or if Trump wins, like, my life's not going to change that much. So it's like, for somebody to say, if Biden wins, like, that's it, I'm going to start shoot the country. Like, what is that even? Like, what? How did we get there?
And then the fact that he was like survival skills. I was like, are we fighting in the woods now?
Yeah.
I was like, I thought she was going to take over the streets a second ago. But it's just hilarious because this isn't his first time. This isn't the only person I know like this. Like I told you a while ago, I keep certain people around just so I can know what's being said. And even that guy that I got into it, I was telling you about, he didn't even say this shit. He was like, nah. He just kept saying, we'll win. He was like, he's like, we don't win. He was like, it's gonna be some bullshit. He was saying it's gonna be an issue with, we're gonna know it got stolen and we'll be able to prove it and this, that, and third. But even he wasn't like, we're about to go out there and kill people. My fucking 55-year-old coach with bad knees, bad back, I think a bad heart, all this shit, was like,
he's not doing
I'm gonna be on front lines. I was like, bro, you're gonna pass out after you take your medication, man. Like, like, what are you talking about? I was like, I wanted to be like, I can kick your ass. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got survival skills? I was like, I'm out of shape. I know I can kick your ass because you don't know, like, okay, you swear you got a gun. I was like, unless the manufacturer called you up and said, hey, by the way, you got the only gun in existence. If we left it up to you, if anything happens, you are the person. Deuces, wow. You know, like, wrapping this up. Like, no, that's why I always tell people.
I am Iron Man.
Exactly. And I always tell people, I was like, when they're like, man, you know I got to do them. Like, well, unless yours was the last one ever created, I'm pretty sure they do too. And if you don't have it on you at the time somebody else does, it's like you never owned a gun at all.
I think it's crazy. Some people's response are crazy. I mean, if Trump, like I said, if Trump wins, there's going to be a lot going. You know, there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to be happy.
But it's going to be just like last time. Well, they might protest this time. They might protest or try to riot, some bullshit.
Yeah,
that's going to get shut down quick. I think either way, protesting and riot is going to get shut down quick after the elections.
I agree.
Because they're preparing, because
the agenda's gone.
I'm going to say, you can hear it on both sides. It doesn't matter. It's like, now, I will tell you, maybe I don't have as many crazy, like, alt-left people as I do, which is only like 3 or 4 that I have, the like seemingly alt-right people. It's like, but I'm not hearing it. I'm hearing people go, like, I'm hearing all Democrats, and it's kind of where I see where people get the idea that they're pussies and pushovers and all that. It's like, we got to get out and vote. We can't let them have it. This guy is bad. He is bad, blah, blah. And it's just like a bunch of rhetoric, like, he's bad. We got to get out and vote. We got to get out and vote. On the other side, like, if we lose, we kill him. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
What? Like, yeah. But then I'm looking at these people, I'm like, you're 48 with all type of badness. And then I even told the guy who was telling me this, I was like, so let me get this straight. Your 13-year-old daughter who you had just literally made a Facebook video about how great it is that she's 13. You ready to leave her? You ready to leave your 8-year-old son too? Like, are we? Like, let me know, because I'll prepare myself. Like, but are you ready to leave these motherfuckers forever because of your narcissistic reasoning of believing that your guy's the best?
What's crazy is that that narrative is already, like, dying. Like, it was like a hard-pressed, like, thing that you would hear, like, from the right, but it was like, essentially, it actually kind of started, like, you even heard on the right from, like, super conservatives, like the people who Trump does no bad no matter what types. You know what I mean? Like, oh, hail Trump, you know, that type, you know.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side is it actually kind of started with, like, the reason the Civil War thing started, in my opinion, was you saw, like, the left people were like, you know, like, well, we got guns and we got this and we got that, and it's like, you know, Trump loses, we're gonna kill him. And it started with this, you know, and it's all the blue hair, purple mother, you know, they ain't got no friends, those type of people
who are like getting beat up in the street when they actually try to fight.
Right. And it's like, that's what was like, oh, you want to go? You want to go? And then, like, people push back, and then it turned into these crazies that just talk about it now. And it's like, listen, Nobody's dying over this. Same way nobody moved to Canada, when Trump won.
Listen, that was hilarious. With all those celebrities, like, I moved to Canada. I'm like, well,
where'd you go?
Unlike normal people, you do
They
have
take
the
more your
resources.
taxes.
I was going to say,
Ask Wesley Snipes about that.
I was like, a shitload.
I will say, I hope. Let me preface that. You hope that after the election, some of these fucking crazies don't actually come out and be
They're
some
gonna
fucking
try.
crazies.
Like you recently saw with the guys who were going to kidnap the governor, and I forgot where was it, Michigan?
The problem
somewhere.
is like these.
They always
like,
let you know their plan. By the way,
the way that they want Trump to denounce racism, they need to get the left to denounce this crazy left movement. And what's annoying is the crazies that are the left in the government are so loud, but the ones that are the libertarians is if you will, like the farther right, and they're not even the crazies, they're just like less government. And it's hilarious because both have a quote unquote anti-government view. Like,
I know
the far rights, they don't want government because they don't want them taking their money. The far lefts, they don't want government, but they want the government to tell everybody to be nice. And it's like, okay, you both don't want government, but you both want government to play a different role. Makes no sense at all. But
right.
If you live in reality, there's not going to be a civil war. That's the whole reason we vote. Now, like, that whole crazy, like, to the point of, like, the left needs to get away from this, like, oh, we're going to ban fracking. Like, shut up. No, you're not. You're not banning fracking. The world, the United States is not sustainable enough without fracking, okay? You're not getting away from fossil fuels. The United States is not sustainable enough without fossil fuels. Like, everything
I need most of America to get away from
crazy.
Their point of view is right. Like,
exactly.
I can't for the life of me, and I, like, as somebody who, you guys watch, either you guys watch like First Take or something like that.
You're talking about
I can't take it. Shannon Sharp.
No, that's not Shannon Sharp. With Stephen A. Smith.
Stephen A. Okay,
and,
that's the other one.
The boxing guy. He always does boxing. Commentating.
So here's what I like about the show, or how I imagine the show goes. Right? They come up with their talking points of like, all right, this is what we're going to talk about. They have one guy's got to give one point of view, and the other guy's got to give the other point of view, and that's their shtick. That's their back and forth and whatever. But there's two sides to every coin, right? And they gotta give that. Like, when somebody goes and gives me their factual opinion on something, I'm like, yo, I can't listen to you because you clearly do not see that there is another way to think about things.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's why the big saying is, like, with religion and politics, don't talk about religion and politics, and especially don't talk about it when you're drinking, because a lot of people want to talk about it as fact. But it's not fact. It's just your opinion, and you think of it as a factual opinion.
See, he doesn't believe in God either. I told you, Steve.
It's all hypothesis. So my point to that, though, is like dying on the hill. And like the biggest thing that's annoying today is just what kills me about those types of shows, right? And
first of all, you ain't gonna disrespect Shannon Sharp. That is a funny motherfucker.
Mike shot me over his podcast a couple weeks ago, and I listened to it, and it was lame as all hell. So like the black guy white guy thing or whatever it was. The point is like, you're not allowed to disagree anymore. That's the point.
Right.
It's like, okay, like, just look at the MAGA hat and look at the BLM hat. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, make America great again. It's like, oh, well, you were racist. It's like, well, I want our country to be the greatest country in the world. Why is that so bad? Well, that's not what it means. Black Lives Matter. It's like, well, why don't all lives matter? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, and it goes back and forth, back and forth. We hide behind these slogans instead of having a conversation. And like, to some of those ESPN shows that drive me insanely annoyed, is hold on. You get the black guy toting this narrative about, and I don't want to say woe is me, but it's like victim, and the white guy's just like, yeah, you're right. Like, there's zero pushback. You're not having a genuine conversation if you're not pushing back. And I'm not saying you can't disagree on some spots and agree on some spots, but if you're doing that, you're pandering, and you're not having an honest conversation.
You got to watch
Right,
the
so-
one with
so-
Jason Whitlock and Marcellus Wiley. They always get called coons and pushed back because, first of all, Jason Whitlock, I want to say he's a conservative.
Well, it's the same
But
thing on your side. If you see a
But-
black
but
conservative pander to the white people, you're like, oh, he's a coon. We see the
I
same
don't
thing on
wanna
our side.
I don't want to get too caught up right here in the sport,
Uh-huh.
thing of it. I'm talking just more to the idea, like, and that's their shtick again. Just understand that there's two sides to the coin. So, like,
Exactly.
whatever they bring up, that's the point of the show. They do it, okay. They're never like, it's not like Stephen A says something and then Max Kellerman's like, yes,
That's
I
right.
agree, and that's just it. They always
Yeah, they wouldn't have a
give-
show.
They want to have a show, so they give two sides of the coin. So, like, I hate when, especially with the way that the world is today with social media, right? You get somebody who wants to go on there and it's like, I feel this way, and if you don't feel that way, you
You're
can
wrong.
unfriend me.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can unfriend me. and
I
don't
have
talk
so
to me.
many
It's like,
people who say that shit. And I'm
yo,
like, why?
it doesn't make sense.
I say keep
Because
them as
everybody
friends.
wants to live in black and white land.
Well, everybody wants
Right.
to live in the land where it's fun. Because, like, me personally, I tell Steve, I'm an asshole. I like going back and forth with people to a certain degree, as long as it's like somewhat respectful. But even when it gets disrespectful, I'm like, I got no problem with that either. Now I'm becoming an adult and I have kids, so I gotta go.
Well, it's entertaining.
I'm gonna say, well, it's always entertaining me, but I'm saying I got to side on the, I should do it better because I'm like I don't want to teach my son or my daughter that.
Right,
It's like-
right.
But like I told you, I finally got a chance to go down the mud with somebody, and I was like, ooh, this shit feels good. I forgot how good this feels.
It does feel good.
Because I'm petty. But yeah, look, I'm petty. Look, I tell people I'm petty, and I still hold grudges. There's still people to this day. I'm like, if I see him, I'm punch you in the fucking face. I'm not like I used to want to kill you, so I think I'm good.
We're getting better.
I
We're
just
getting
want to
better.
punch you in the face now. But it's just funny because, like you said, I see that where they're like, unfriend me if you don't believe this. So it's like I got a lot of conservative people who are like, oh, you don't believe in Trump? You know what? And then they'll put up some stupid little meme like, unfriend me if you don't like this. And then I'll see but I'm saying I'll see my liberal friends and they're like, oh, you think Trump is good? Unfriend me if you don't like what I just said about him. I'm like, but why? That's not how it goes in real life. You guys
Yeah.
would argue, and then
Right.
what'll happen
Have a
is
conversation.
you'll argue about politics, and then it'll switch to something else, and then you'll be like, well, I do like the goddamn Texas, though. You know what I'm saying? Oh, man, can you believe what they're doing with the Cowboys?
Right.
It always goes, I was like, because in real life, I also said it on here. I was like, you guys, I say, here's what's happening. You guys aren't getting into real fights in real life. You're not getting into arguments that lead to real fights most of the time. I was like, you haven't done anything else. But I was like, that was for
Your
both
own
sides.
base.
I was like, that was for both sides, but everybody just chose to ignore it and go for the conservative guy. And then I will say they were being crazy, so it did outshine what I was saying. It was like, but I tell people all the time, like we said, live in reality, because it's like, me and Steve have argued and then went and got something to eat. It's like, or even anybody I know. I was like, there's very few people except for like my cousins and them who can push me into a fight. But at the same time, it's like most of the times you're friends with somebody, and there's always something you disagree with. It might be a fucking football team, basketball team, and you get passionate about it. Like, no, this motherfucker sucks. Your team sucks. You blah blah blah. And then you still like, if you're still friends, and you still hang out, you still talking. I'm like, so clearly it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you just got passionate about something, like, and that's all politics is. This is a fucking show anyway.
Yeah, you just got to be able to disagree and then
because-
go out to lunch and be like, it's fine.
And get back together.
Well, and that's the thing, and I always call it factual opinion because,
Yeah.
again, somebody who's a Democrat or a Republican, they give their point of view as if, hey, this is a fact, and like that's just the only right way. So if you feel the other way, they're like,
Wrong.
no, because it's not. And people, you got to realize that no matter how you feel, that's your opinion when it comes to politics. And if somebody else feels the other way, you may not agree with it, but that's their opinion, and that's okay. That's where people need to get at the end of the day is like, hey, all right, you support Trump. Like, no, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad person or a racist or whatnot. That's just your opinion, and you've got your reason for it, and so be it.
I'm gonna tell you, real life, that's what's happening. And again, like I said, like, because I told Steve, like, everybody's like, we can go to like the little Black Lives Matter thing where like every time we're like, Black Lives Matter is doing this and that. I was like, well, I don't think actually the headquarters of Black Lives Matter is there or anything. I was like, what happened was somebody wrote Black Lives Matter, or a couple people did, and then they just assumed that they were part of the whole organization. I was like, no, they just wrote Black Lives Matter. I was like, that doesn't make them Black Lives Matter, the organization. It was like, but I had a lot of conservative friends.
guilty by association.
Yeah, it's like guilty by association. That's like, because I had a lot of like friends, conservative friends, like, no, because they're doing this and they're doing that. And I'm like, but it was fucking
that's why
bumfuck nowhere, and it was like 50 people protesting. I was like, I doubt seriously Black Lives Matter had anything to do with that.
But that comes back to, you know, the coin and phrase. Like, you know, you had the Patriot Act under the George Bush administration.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't agree with the Patriot Act, well,
you were a terrorist.
You are not a good person. Well, what's the Patriot Act entail? It's like, well, we're going to spy on you, listen to every single one of your phone calls.
But we're not going to do anything for most of it.
Yeah. It's like,
just if you say something that intrigues
and that's why it's like the new Green Deal. It's like, well, everybody gets a house. And you're like, no, I don't think everybody should have a house. Like, well, if you don't, you hate the environment. It's like, dude, you can't hide behind a slogan that says, if you disagree with this, you know, and that's why Republicans get coined on this, because like, oh, we got the new Green Deal. It's like, okay, what's about the environment? It's like, oh, all this stuff that has nothing to do with the environment. You're like, okay. Or the Patriot Act. The Republicans did that. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, of course I'm a patriot. We call it a coin and phrase. You're not a patriot if you disagree. You can't disagree with being a patriot. It's like, no, I don't think you should be spying on me. Well, you're not a patriot. Same thing. It happens on both sides. We coin these phrases. You can't disagree with it. It's like, oh, hey, don't rape people. What do you want with that? Like, oh, well, you know, we want to give $30 minimum wage. It's like, look, I don't think that's a good idea. Well, you think it's okay to rape people? No, I didn't say that. Well, you didn't agree with me. So apparently, like, you can't. We got to get away with this awful phrasing that's been politicized. On top of that is the way they go for these crazies on the outliers. It's kind of like we go back to the abortion thing. It's like, look, everybody knows it's not getting overturned, but they will keep pandering to it to keep the crazy in check or on their side. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry.
You get a message right now?
No, my wife was like...
yeah, we got to wrap this thing up, man. It's 8 o'clock.
It is 8 o'clock.
And my ears hurt from these...
How much more driving you got, Sean?
Oh, he's got like another 5 hours.
I got one more hour now.
Oh, that's not that bad.
Really?
No.
Where in Michigan you going?
Close to Detroit. I don't know. I have no idea, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
Wherever they sent me the address to, I typed it into wherever the Google is taking me.
Exactly.
Hey, Google heard this whole conversation thing.
You goddamn right.
We might all be dead tomorrow.
All right. Well, we didn't say anything too crazy.
I don't think we got too bad. Nothing too bad.
No. It's like it seemed like they were like Google, like seem okay.
You know,
nobody was really saying crazy stuff. We'll let them slide.
If I've got to leave it, with my final thought, I mean, there again at the end is that people just need to understand that not everybody's going to agree with your every thought and your every move. I mean, I think most people can agree that the two people that we've got to choose, between, they're not the greatest.
Giant douche and a turd sandwich.
Well, no. Well, I tell Steve all the time, a shit pile and shit sandwich.
Yeah.
That's the truth, and that's what it comes down to. And people are going to pick these few things that they feel more passionate about, and they're gonna choose somebody over. But people's got to, people got to understand that people are just going to feel a different way. And I at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the accountability and of your own actions. Worry more about what you're doing day in and day out, not what you expect somebody to come in an office and do for you.
Yeah, I'm with you, 100%. 100%. Well, Sean, I appreciate you taking the time, man.
Hey, Sean, can we do this again? Are you?
Yeah.
See, it's not that bad.
Yeah, it's not bad at all, man.
Never again. Never again.
I had to say stuff I wasn't comfortable with.
If anybody is out there listening, they've got me tied up in the basement. They won't let me go.
And we got
What's funny is you try to get
people
people come on and like. They're like, well, I don't want it. Like,
well,
what are you going to do? Come on here and be like, I'm going to say the N-word right off the bat. Be like, oh, shit, I got to go. Can you delete that? I'm like, no.
Well, now, Steve, I told Steve he does go to people wrong. Like, people were like, hey, so what do you talk about? Steve's like, racism? You want to get into it? And I'm like, Steve, you can't go to other white people and say you're going to talk about racism. It's like, it just, look, I know white people enough to know that being called a racist is a scary thing and can lose your job. Let's say now they are over.
Well, I don't want to blindside
Well,
them.
they're also
Because we definitely talked a lot about racism.
But they're also overselling how many people we reach.
True. I'm honored if that happens to you.
like if you actually
really? You got fired? Oh,
we
man.
got at least have 50,000.
I definitely don't mind doing it. The hardest part for me is finding the time, just because like today.
You're a busy man.
Yeah, I mean with work, I just don't know. Like today, I thought for sure at the latest I'd be able to get on at 3, and then of course the beginning of the day I get basically an FU email being like, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that, and I'm like, God,
yeah.
All right, here we go, and it's like, all right, for the rest of the week, I mean, like, hey, I got another 5 hours coming back on freaking.
Wait, are you going right back home after driving there?
No, I got Wednesday night.
Oh, okay.
I'm
here. Too bad.
I'm here tonight and tomorrow, and then Wednesday I probably hit the road. I'm hoping to hit the road around 4, but whatever time he keeps me till, and then I got to hit the road and come back.
Well, we got it set up in the little quote unquote studio here to do Skype calls.
Hey man, ain't no quote unquote, you got a studio, man.
So we could do it that way, but.
Sean, I liked your reasoning, sir. You didn't come across crazy, and I very much appreciate that. I've been dealing with some crazy. Like I said, as you see, I've been dealing with some very conservative crazy, and I was like, well, all right.
Oh, by the way, he said he was a Republican too.
Oh, he did. I heard him.
Okay.
It's okay. That's why
I just want to clarify.
That's why I said no. I'm saying
you saw that red. You're like, oh, he's racist.
No. I was just like, no, you because you were like he has some good points or something like that. Last time we talked, and I was like, I wonder what he said. It must have been racist for you to agree with it like that. But no, I'm just saying, man, I appreciate you coming on, brother. I say, I hope we can do it again. I was like, because he's probably much talked the most. Who's the other guy? Did we lose him?
Yeah, we didn't lost him.
Oh, damn. Oh,
he gone.
Well, he still is a good guy. Hopefully, we can have Sean back on. And for most people, like you say, Steve knows and I know. Right now, we're living in reality, and that is what you say, Steve.
That's the reality of it. The reality of it is
I'm right. It is latest shit.
The internet thing must have cut out because the cell phone tower thing, because my cell phone bars went gone.
Very much right.
Yeah, you probably don't have his cell phone bars either.
Well, I will once I switch back to my other. Once I get off of your thing.
But yes.
I was like, hey man.
Strong side?
Right side.
It's left side, but
God damn it, left side.